What's going on, Miners fans? Welcome back to Kenai, Alaska, and we've got a good one for you today. Game number 4 between the Mat-Su Miners and the Peninsula Oilers here at Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows, and it's going to be a big one for Mat-Su as they look to finally get a win that they've been looking for a long time here at the ballpark.
They've dropped 3 in a row to Peninsula here in Kenai for the first time in a long time, as far back as the records go. Trying to avoid making it 4 in a row, which would have been the longest losing streak they've had against any opponent in as far back as the records go.
Well, last night was a tough loss for Mat-Su. The first time they've been shut out all season, lost 2-0 to Peninsula. Let's have a quick look at that at this day's highlight reel.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Kenai Peninsula, where the time is now for the Mat-Su Miners. If they want to come back and win this series over the Peninsula Oilers, they must win the next 3 consecutive games here at Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark. A massive payoff pitch coming up from the freshman. Kendrick, the payoff, and he found the zone. 3 straight strikeouts for Noah Kendrick. What a response after giving up 2 straight singles to start the bottom half of the first. Kendrick, the strikeout specialist, doing what he does. This is going to be a fly ball into right field for a base hit. It's going to get down. So instead of a run scored for the Oilers, it's taken off the board, and Kyle McCausland steals a run away from Peninsula.
That is the throw of the year for the Mat-Su Miners, and it could not have come at a more crucial time. So a big break for the Miners, but can Kendrick capitalize on it?
1-2 count, high fly ball into left field. Chasing after it is Scow. He makes the catch. Boy, almost had a collision. A run's going to come in for the Oilers, and the score is now 1-0 Peninsula, so a sacrifice fly for Petey Soto.
Runners on the corners, 1 out. Kyle McDaniel at bat, and he lays down a bunt down the first base line. Can't be fielded cleanly by Murphy. Tried to stick his glove out, but he couldn't get the ball in, so another run comes in to score. Reaching base safely is McDaniel, and it's 2-0.
Still trying to get that first strikeout. Let's see if he can do it.
Payoff pitch, and he does. Swing and a miss for strike 3. Bouts will throw down, and a quick and easy 2 outs for Nolan Murphy, who is cruising here just as he did back in the showcase. That's strike 3. 3 straight Ks, all of them looking by Colby Reynolds. And Riker Scow goes down on strikes for the second time. 6 total strikeouts for Mat-Su.
And he got the strikeout. Game over. The Peninsula Oilers can pick up their 3rd consecutive victory over the Mat-Su Miners, and they shut out Mat-Su for the first time this season. On their way to a 4-3 record, Mat-Su drops to 4-4 in ABL play. And Peninsula now in possession of 2nd in the ABL standings. Mat-Su drops to 3rd.
All right, so you got to look at last night's highlights. Mat-Su going to be looking for a rebound today, trying to get that big win over Peninsula. Let's go over the starting lineups for tonight, Charlie.
Well, they've got a different-looking lineup today. Probably, like you said, trying to get a spark going. Drake Kerr, normally the 9-hitter, is leading off today in center field. Blake Bouts out in left instead of his normal post of center. Dom Patrizi in second base, Christian Perez at first, Brandon Duran, the DH, Kellen Strohmeyer out in right, Logan Vaughn, the catcher. All 3 members of the catching unit are starting today. Chase Wilcox makes his return to the lineup after reworking his swing. He's over at third base. Ryan Richard, the shortstop, and Rocco Bernardina making his 4th start for the Miners this season, 3rd in official ABL play.
All right, so Rocco Bernardina and the Miners ready to go. Meanwhile, for the Peninsula Oilers, leading off will be the shortstop, Petey Soto. Then it's the 3rd baseman, Kyle McDaniel. In center field is Colin Robson. Left field, Elijah Vogelsong Lewis. First base, Ty Thomas. Right field, Cole Wilson. Second base, Cole Dawson. Catcher, Brock Worthgen. And the DH, Max Rothwart. On the mound for the first time against the Miners this season, Toledo's man, Ryan Hughes. This is going to be a good one between Mat-Su and Peninsula. We'll have all the action coming to you live right here on the Mat-Su Miners YouTube channel. Don't go anywhere, Miners fans. We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome back inside Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark in Kenai, Alaska, where the Mat-Su Miners have lost 3 in a row, looking to avoid what would be a playoff sweep were this in the postseason, and finally get back in the win column for the first time in almost a week with Dylan Simmons. I'm Charlie Fellows, and Dylan, they got to try something different today after what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, of course, the first shutout loss of the year for Mat-Su. Like you mentioned, trying something different, throwing the kitchen sink, trying to see what they can find in this series. That's the philosophy for Mat-Su here in this game. And something interesting going into this one, they did not have batting practice today. In fact, they decided to skip batting practice as a whole. Coach LeBrun trying anything he can to get this offense going, and they've made some alterations in this lineup tonight. Going to be interesting to see if that pays off.
There were all sorts of discussions on the bus ride over here about superstition, things that you needed to change in routines in the game. Of course, like you said, they skipped batting practice, which is the first time I've done that this year, and also the lineup looks a lot different with Drake Kerr leading off instead of his customary spot in the 9-hole. Blake Bouts at second, or batting second rather, on left field. Don Patrizi, Christian Perez, Brandon Durand, Kellen Strohmeyer, Logan Vaughn, Chase Wilcox, and Ryan Richard, the unit of choice for Ty LeBrun and the Mat-Su Miners. And Drake Kerr, like I said, will get things going here against Ryan Hughes, a new face that the Miners have not yet seen.
Now, we've talked about it. Usually Drake Kerr, the man in the 9-hole, but today leading off for Mat-Su. This will be the first time he's done it this year. Will it pay off for the Miners, and can they finally get that much wanted win today?
Under a hot, sunny, cloudless day here in Kenai as Kerr cuts at offering number 1. It is akin to an oven in the press box right now, and our camera was overheating at points during the pregame show, so if the video ever cuts out, that's why.
Yeah, as the great Ken Squire would say, it's like playing in a pizza oven right now for these players, and it's going to be something that they'll have to contend with all day long, but they still are ready to go, and I'm sure Drake Kerr, a man from Texas, used to the heat and the pressure.
Hughes is 1-1. Grounder right back over the mound, bouncing, fielded by Soto, and he throws on in time to get him. A great defensive play by Petey Soto, the shortstop, and one away.
Yeah, this is exactly what the Oilers used yesterday in the game against Mat-Su. Great infield defense, and that time it was a great job by Soto to get that baseball on the hop, and then the nice throw to first to Ty Thomas. A good 6-3 put out, and the Oilers need to keep that going to hold the Mat-Su bats in check.
Blake Bouts batting second. He is one of the 3-man catcher unit for Mat-Su this season, and all 3 of them are in the lineup today because Blake Bouts also doubles as an outfielder. He's playing left field in place of Riker Scow, and he'll take offering number 1 from Hughes, swing right through it.
Ryan Hughes taking on the Miners for the first time this season, a righty out of Toledo. Cave Creek, Arizona is the place he calls home. 6'7", 200 pounds. He had a season-high 1-inning pitch against Notre Dame back on May 11th. And has been a pretty solid pitcher for Toledo, and now trying to bring that here to Kenai.
Chopper past Hughes, fielded by the second baseman. That'll be another routine out.
Well, it's the same story so far that we've been seeing in this series, isn't it, Charlie? Mat-Su having a lot of short hits off the bat that are pretty easy for this infield defense to clean up. We've said it before, but if the Miners are going to get some momentum back in this series, they're going to need big extra base hits.
Ryan Hughes has appeared in 1 game for the Oilers this season, and he was not good. He pitched 2 innings, allowed 3 hits and 3 earned runs. So the Miners hoping that they can replicate that here today. 2 down for Don Patrizi, who showed bunt briefly. Don, one of the top hitters on this Miners squad, hitting .226, leading the ABL with 9 runs batted in.
He was one of 2 guys last night for Mat-Su who managed to get a hit off of Peninsula. Mat-Su was out hit 7-2 by the Oilers.
1-1.
And of course, they out hit Peninsula 8-4 in the previous game and still lost that one as well. So Mat-Su, in addition to being outplayed in some respects, has been kind of unlucky in this series. Just things that have not gone their way, calls that have not gone their way on certain occasions, and luck is something that they're also hoping is going to turn today.
That misses low on the New Jersey man, Lehigh Mountain Hawk. playing shortstop today, or excuse me, second base. He's a middle infielder with Richard at short. 2-1. Outside again.
If you'll remember, this Miners offense scored 45 runs in the first 5 games. They have scored a combined 4 over the last 3 games. So it's been a completely big flip of the switch into where this offense was and where it is now. And you've got to give credit to this Peninsula defense and especially these pitchers for holding Matsu in check.
And that's ball 4. Don Patrizi with great plate discipline after swinging through the first offering. Takes 4 straight balls. And he's on with a 2-out walk.
Yeah, like you mentioned, good discipline at the plate and decided to let that one go by. Recognized it was going to be high and in, and Patrizi very good at reading that, showing his experience, able to get a nice walk.
Anyone watching the pregame show noticed that there was some crazy amount of buffering going on. We had to switch to the stadium Wi-Fi, which is slower than our hotspot, so we're dropping a few more frames, but it's never going to crash. Our hotspot we had here was just a constant 0. It wasn't working at all. So the picture you see might be buffering a little bit, but you'll be able to hear us, which is the important part. Here's Christian Perez batting with a man on, in need of some solid contact, along with all these Miners. Foul tip back. We were talking before with head coach Tyler Brun on what the decision was with choosing not to have batting practice. He said that, the batting practice yesterday, the Miners looked good, but that just didn't translate into the actual game. So he figured something had to change, and that was that.
Yeah, they thought it was a tremendous batting practice yesterday, and they had full confidence that coming into last night's game, they were going to be red hot with the bat, and that just didn't happen. Sometimes you have those nights, and now, like you mentioned, the strategy from Coach LeBrun and the Miners, hey, let's just put them out there off the bat and see if they can get some hits on these guys and get the momentum going, and from there it kind of just balloons into a great hitting night.
Hughes is struggling to find the strike zone consistently here. He's missed badly on a couple in a row. 2-1, that's high.
Yeah, one thing Peninsula has been able to avoid in a vast majority of these games so far is that they haven't given Matsu a lot of easy opportunities, not a lot of walks issued, although they have been in there at certain points. Miners haven't been able to capitalize, so that's something that Peninsula needs to try to keep going if they want to win again tonight.
3-1. And that's another walk. High and outside. A pair of 2-out walks have 2 men on for the Miners. Can take advantage here against Ryan Hughes, who is struggling to settle into a rhythm and get on the board right here in the top of the first if Brandon Durand can get a solid hit.
All right, we've seen this situation play out before in this series for Matsu. You've got a runner in scoring position, 2 runners on base. They have been very, very unsuccessful when it comes to these situations in the past. How do they handle it this time? What are they going to switch about it? And can Brandon Durand get off what's been a bit of a cold streak
That's
for
a
him?
pass ball, or a wild pitch, excuse me, so runners will advance into scoring position. Ryan Hughes really struggling in the early goings here.
Yeah, that time he pitched it just a little bit outside. Worthgen did everything he could to try to keep the baseball in front of him, but just couldn't get a handle on it, and now it's an even more advantageous position for Brandon Durand and the Miners.
1-0 on Durand out of Bryant, Somerset, Massachusetts. Had that one exceptional game against the Glacier Pilots back in the home opener and has not managed to hit since.
Remember, he's got an incredibly powerful bat as well. Could be a potential for an extra base hit.
Cut and a miss. He's had some of the longest foul balls we've seen all season. So he's got it in him.
And the wind is not as much of a factor today. It's pretty light. There's a small wind towards right field, but left field is wide open for these right-handed batters, and there's an opportunity from that perspective for maybe the first home run of the season for Matsu.
1-1. Good stop by Worthgen, but it will not find the zone.
Man, you see another low pitch from Hughes that time, and looks like we're going to have already a mound conference.
Pitching coach for Peninsula coming out to talk. With Durand at the plate, Kellen Strohmeyer due up next.
Yeah,
a lot of guys due for hits.
Yeah, you see he's trying to talk Hughes through this and say, hey, we got to get back to what we were doing originally. Send that pitch a little bit higher. Don't aim it towards the zone, or aim it towards the zone right now. And you got to get away from the dirt. You can't keep throwing it in the dirt. And if you do, you're going to put your team in harm's way. So I'm sure that's the strategy and that's the discussion right now. Let's get back to the pitching that we saw originally that led to those 2 groundouts. And don't play with these pitches low.
2-1 coming to the designated hitter. If he gets a hit, he could score 2. Hughes. Cutting a miss. Has him down to his last strike.
Now was a great adjustment. This time goes a bit more inside and able to elevate the pitch just a little bit on Durand. That was a nice cut that he forced on Durand, and now an opportunity for that all-important strikeout and to strand 2 more runners for Matsu.
2-2. 2 on, 2 out. Cutting a miss. He got him. Brandon Durand's struggles continue. He strikes out with 2 men in scoring position, and the Oilers escape with a 0-0 game after the top of the first. We're headed to the Oilers side of the first inning. You're watching Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. Back to the action here, bottom 1 here in Kenai, and as you'll notice, the display is missing. That is because we have indeed allowed our camera to overheat. As I mentioned, it is an oven in here right now, and the glass is doing the GoPro no favors. So once that cools down, we'll be able to get the picture back. But in the meantime, let's do a little old-fashioned radio broadcast. Petey Soto at the plate, the leadoff man for the Oilers, facing off against Rocco Bernardina. He takes ball 1.
And one thing about Matsu that's been very solid in this series has been their pitching. And Rocco Bernardina, a guy who's been very solid for Matsu all year long, trying to keep that going against Peninsula. We know that Matsu, if they want any chance of winning today, their pitching has got to match Peninsula's, which has been superb.
Fouls that one off, missed a ball, so that's 2-1. Bernardina on the year leads the Miners in appearances with 4 total, although 2 of those were during the MLB showcase. Only 2 in ABL play. 4 innings. Has allowed 6 hits and 3 runs. So trying to have a smooth outing here. 3-1. And that's hit well down the left field line. Going back on it, Bouts. And that's just foul, but over the fence.
Boy, that had some extra sauce to it that time by Petey Soto. Thought for a second that we might just be getting a left field home run, but not quite enough on the angle. Big payoff pitch on the way.
And that's hit into right over the head of Patrizi at second base, and that'll be down for a base hit.
Yeah, Patrizi did everything he could to leap up and make a play on that. It was going to be a tough play to make no matter what because he was going over the shoulder, and that odd angle made it very hard for him to even attempt to catch. Nice single by Petey Soto into right.
So the leadoff man aboard for the Oilers, and that'll bring up Kyle McDaniel, who had a pair of hits last night.
That's a high chopper over towards right, and that's going to be one out at second base there, Charlie. So going to be a fielder's choice for McDaniel, able to get to first, but Matsu did get that one out.
Apologies for that, trying to fix the display. Yes, indeed. It was nearly a double play ball, but Soto cut down. So McDaniel takes his place at first base.
And here comes the guy who has been absolutely mesmerizing against Matsu, Colin Robson, already a couple home runs on the year, looking for number 3.
He takes the first pitch in for a strike. He had one to start this series. Also a few hits last night. Oh, 1. Cut and a miss. Bernardino looking for his first K.
Robson is a guy who has struck out a handful of times this season, so Rocco Bernardino obviously knowing that he's going to be aggressive at the plate, doing a good job with that breaking ball early on. We've seen a lot of great breaking ball pitchers on this Matsu roster, and Bernardino definitely among those. Opportunity at out number 2 right here.
Swing and a miss. He got him 3 straight pitches, and Robson goes down on strikes, 2 away.
Great work on that high pitch that time by Bernardino. Exactly what the Matsu Miners were looking for out of him. He excels at striking out guys swinging and able to get Colin Robson that time. That's the kind of breaking ball, fastball mix-up that they're going to be looking for tonight from him.
Elijah Vogelsong Lewis now aboard, or at the plate rather, with 2 out and a man on first.
Runner's going.
And the runner's going to go, and he's caught by Bernardino. He throws down to second, and that's going to be an easy out number 3. Bernardino was about to deliver, but turned around at the last second and was able to get him. So the Oilers don't make any serious noise. We're going to head to the second inning now. You're watching, or rather listening to, Matsu Miners Baseball here on YouTube. Hello, everyone. We've just got audio back. I forgot to turn our microphones back up. This is the top of the second inning with Kellen Strohmeyer at bat. He's got a 3-1 count now. We were making some amazing insight that none of you guys could hear, but now we're back, and it's almost a walk here, and that is indeed ball 4. Ryan Hughes walks the leadoff man, already his third base on balls of the game, and Kellen Strohmeyer is aboard.
Yeah, we were just talking about how Ryan Hughes has struggled to find the zone in this game, and he issues yet another walk. For Matsu, this is a great opportunity to capitalize. They really haven't had any hits into the outfield in this game, but now with a runner on base already, you feel like it's just a matter of time before Matsu finally cashes in. They've just got to find a way to get that one signature play to put themselves on top.
Here's Logan Vaughn. He's been off a few days in a row now with the arrival of Blake Bouts, but making the start at catcher today, and he takes a strike. Hope everybody can hear us now. Apologies for that. We were doing some tech support, wanted to be able to see the camera during the break, so turned the mics all the way down and forgot to turn them back up. The sheer heat in here is turning my brain into mush. Here's the 0-1. Runner thought about going, and Worthgen thought about throwing, but neither came to pass.
And you see now that the pitches for Hughes are getting a little bit more elevated up over the plate. He's trying to fit it in the zone. Early on, his issue was that he was pitching low, but now it's almost a little bit too high. Still trying to find that happy medium, especially with that breaking ball here early in the going.
Chopper on the ground to short. Soto throws on a second for 1, on to 2. Did he get to the bag? Yes, he did. In time for a double play. Nice piece of defense, erasing the leadoff walk, and just like that, they're 2 away.
My goodness, exactly what Matsu is hoping to avoid that time. It ground out into a double play. P.D. Soto showing once again why he's so exceptional at the shortstop position and great awareness to get it to second base. And how about Cole Dawson with the ability to turn a double play, get that throw off quickly to Thomas. Takes a lot of balance and a lot of accuracy to be able to pull that off, and Peninsula showing themselves capable of doing just that.
Thomas had to stretch for that, too. I wondered if he had gotten his foot on first, but he did. So 2 down for Chase Wilcox, making his return to the Miners lineup. He hit against the Oilers very well last week, but had been reworking his swing a little bit to try and be more consistently dangerous with the bat, and in the meantime was not in the lineup. He hits that into left field, ranging back Vogelsong Lewis, and he's got it for an easy top of the second inning for the Oilers. Once again, Hughes has trouble with his command, but once again, he manages to get out of it. 0-0 the score remains. To the bottom of the second we go. You're watching Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. Bottom 2 under the hot summer sun in Kenai, Alaska. Charlie Fellows, Dylan Simmons bringing you a 0-0 game between the Miners and the Oilers. That for the first time at the start of an inning. You can both hear and see Rocco Bernardina on for a second inning of work to face off against 4, 5, and 6. Elijah Vogelsong Lewis, Ty Thomas, and Cole Wilson. He allowed the first 2 runners to reach base last inning, but both of them were retired at second. P.D. Soto on a fielder's choice and Kyle McDaniel on a pickoff, so he has still faced the minimum. Vogelsong Lewis, a left fielder, ready to dig in, and he takes one in the dirt for ball 1.
And here comes a man who knows a thing or two about breaking out the big lumber, Elijah Vogelsong Lewis, with a .533 slugging percentage on the year. That's second best on the team. one of the better big-time hitters you'll see on this roster for Peninsula, and a guy that it's going to be interesting to see how he'll do against Rocco Bernardina as leadoff hitter. Could help set the tone after that tough 1-2-3 inning in the bottom of the first.
2-0. On the ground to first, fielding it himself will be Christian Perez, and he's got it for an easy out one.
Well, I was going to say set the tone, but he chopped it right to the first base bag, and Christian Perez, not usually in first base, although he has been there a couple times this year, able to take care of that one easily, and that's an easy out.
Pretty sure this particular infield with Perez at first, Patrizi at second, Richard at short. Here's Ty Thomas at first today. Check swing, takes a strike.
Yeah, it's part of that new sort of defense that head coach Tyler Brun's trying out, that new formation, whatever you want to call it. He's doing whatever it takes to put Matsu in position to win this game. Willing to make those defensive adjustments.
Got a miss. 0-2 from Rocco.
Already got one strikeout in this game, and he has been pitching at a really incredible pace so far. It looks like the camera overheats, so we're going to go back to audio.
There goes our camera, so audio it is.
And as that was going on, Rocco Bernardina just struck out Ty Thomas looking for out number 2.
His second K already, second in the last 3 batters as well. So after allowing the first 2 men to reach base, Rocco is really starting to settle in. And tell you what, I think considering how hot it is here, I think we might just go radio for the rest of this one. We'll have the score bug up, but we're not going to be able to consistently show video considering the camera is not able to last a full inning yet. 1-0 on Cole Wilson. He takes high 2-0.
Yeah, there's a big panel of glass in front of us that we've talked about before in this series, and right now I think it's really roasting the GoPro, so that's probably contributing to matters and making this a bit tougher on the cam.
Down and in. 3 balls, no strikes. Yeah, this the way this ballpark is laid out is the sun is going directly into the press box, which wouldn't be that big of a deal if there were any windows in the press box at all, or at least ones that you can open as that finds the strike zone 3-1. But unfortunately, we do not have that luxury. This is a box with no circulation at all, so it gets very hot as Rocco Bernardina fires in a swinging strike to work the count to full.
How about that from Bernardina, going from a 3-0 to a 3-2 just like that, showing great confidence in this at-bat. Let's see if he can get the K.
Fouled it off there, did Cole Wilson.
He's had a pretty solid start in this series since coming in a couple games ago. 15 at-bats on the season, 3 hits, and a 200 average. He's gotten better and better as well with each passing game, emerging as a great piece for Peninsula.
And he got plunked right on the head. He reaches on a hit by pitch with 2 down. Took that one like a champ.
Yeah, I think that's one that just got out of Rocco's hand a little bit. Kind of airmailed it, and like you mentioned, it really went off the side of the helmet of Cole Wilson that time, and that's a break that the Oilers needed, although it wasn't quite the way they wanted to get a guy on base. They'll take it.
Well, the stats you just read out, Dylan, are not, in fact, Cole Wilson. They are Cole Dawson, who is now
yes.
up at bat.
I keep
200 hitter. They're
I can't
one right after the other. Cole Blankson.
I keep confusing the two. Cole Wilson, he's got 5 at-bats coming into this game, according to the stats, with a 200 average as well. So the averages are the same, and he's got a 500 on-base percentage, so he's been very good at getting on base, and hey, there's another example of that.
That one low for a ball from Rocco, 1-1, or 1-0 rather. There's Cole Wilson, Cole Dawson, and Colin Robson all on this team. It's easy to get confused. 1-0 coming from Bernardina. And that's hit on the ground to short, fielded by Richard, on to second to get the force out there, and he will. Wilson retired on a fielder's choice, and Bernardina gets out of the inning. After 2, no score here in Kenai. You're listening to Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. Top of the third inning here in Kenai. A beautiful day to watch a game, at least in person, not necessarily through a GoPro camera. Hope you'll bear with us. Ryan Hughes is on for his third inning of work. He's got Ryan Richard, Drake Kerr, and Blake Bouts due up. Richard, the 9-man in the order, the only one who has not batted.
It's the Ryan and Ryan show to start things off in the top of the third. Here we go.
Off the end of the bat into right field, Cole Wilson coming on, and the center fielder is going to take it, Colin Robson, for out number 1.
That was a heck of a look to the swing by Ryan Richard that time. But a pretty good charge into that baseball and got it pretty far out into right center field. But as you mentioned, Colin Robson, who's been a tremendous outfielder for the Oilers this season, doing what he does best, being able to track down that ball in a hurry. And that's an unfortunate first out for Matsu.
They have not gotten a hit yet. They do have a trio of walks and had 2 men in scoring position with 2 outs back in the first. As Drake Kerr comes up to bat for the second time, he started this game off by grounding out to short, and he leads off by showing bunt.
It's not been the easiest day for Ryan Hughes so far. He's made a few mistakes, already 3 walks in this game. Matsu, though, unable to capitalize. They had 2 runners in scoring position in the top of the first and couldn't get either one of them home.
1-0 finds the zone. Kerr, normally the 9-hitter in this rotation, is leading off today as head coach Ty LeBrun tries to find something in his order to get any kind of consistent offense going. It's been so difficult in this series. Here's the 1-1. That's a bunt laid down beautifully, fielded by Worthgen. He's going to throw down to first. It's high, caught by the first baseman, but not in time. Kerr's got a textbook bunt to reach base with 1 away.
Yeah, I don't think Worthgen even had an opportunity to get that to first in time. That was just a perfect bunt by Drake Kerr, and he was well on his way to first by the time the throw was made, and that is exactly what Drake Kerr is known for on this baseball team, is getting those bunts, and that's a great way to get hit number 1 for Matsu.
And that's probably the 3rd or 4th time this season he's laid down a bunt and made it.
Yes.
He's laid down more sacrifice bunts than we can count. So speedy center fielder. Now Blake Bouts grounded out to second in the first inning. He's got a man on now. He shows bunt, but that pitch is outside. Worthgen looked down to first, but did not throw.
We'll keep an eye on Kerr to see if he tries any stolen bases. He's tied for the team lead with 4 so far this season, so I'd imagine if he sees a hole here, he will go for second base.
1-0 coming from Ryan Hughes. And that gets all the way to the backstop, a ball, and that'll be an easy stolen base on a passed ball. Drake Kerr trots into second.
Yeah, went below Worthgen that time, who really just had no opportunity to collect that baseball, and Drake Kerr able to capitalize. And again, this is what I'm talking about. Matsu again with a runner in scoring position, and especially a speedy one in Drake Kerr. So a tremendous opportunity for Blake Bouts to try to see if he can send him home.
Well, one person I can say definitively is used to this heat is Ryan Hughes, being from Cave Creek, Arizona, a place I've been to. My grandparents have a house there. Very nice, but very, very hot, especially during the summertime. Nowhere near this temperature is nowhere near as hot as it can get down there. I'm talking above 100, 110 degrees during the day.
That is too hot for me.
Now.
That is too hot.
Too hot for humans in general, in my opinion. 3-0 count on Blake Bouts. He was trying to avoid his 4th walk, but he will not. That is high and away. Bouts reaches base, and for the second time in 3 tries, the Miners have multiple base runners, this time with just 1 out.
So we talked about it earlier, what he was struggling with when it came to his pitching was low pitches, and here he puts one a little bit outside and a little bit high, so it's almost like the flip is script from that respect. He's just not quite able to put it in the zone, can't find that happy medium. Most of the time it's been ground outs and fly outs that has sort of bailed him out of these situations, but right now, Matsu once again with a chance to capitalize, and we'll see if they do just that.
Don Patrizi has walked in this game. He takes a ball just outside the zone. So Ryan Hughes is allowed to walk. He has struck out a man. Of course, he did that with runners on second and third back in the first, but 4 walks allowed already through 2 1/3 innings. An inauspicious start, but so far, the Miners with nothing to show for it. Patrizi waiting on a 1-0. Here it comes, right down the middle for a strike.
Really nice pitch that time. I think that's the one that if possible, he needs to go back towards, able to fool Patrizi. If he can get that strike to land in a few more times, I think he'll be much more comfortable and maybe start to get into that rhythm here.
1-1. Runners on first and second, and that's left in the dirt. Worthgen, another great stop. 2-1.
Yeah, he's doing a good job of keeping the baseball in front of him right now, and that is exactly what Peninsula needs at this point in the game. You do not want to give Matsu any further opportunities when they've had issues offensively.
2-1 coming to the Lehigh Mountain Hawk. And he just gets a piece of it to the backstop. This problem is one that Ryan Hughes has had in the past. Through 8 innings pitched with Toledo, he allowed 8 walks. Pardon me. He allowed 8 walks in 8 innings pitched with the Toledo Rockets, so he has struggled with his command before, and now it is coming to pass in favor of the Miners as well. 2-2.
Yeah, I'm sure that's something that, as he's come to the Alaska Baseball League, he's trying to work through this season, but early on, those demons still with him.
High and tight, 3-2. To those just joining who are wondering where the picture is, unfortunately, it is a very hot, very sunny day in Kenai and at the ballpark where this press box is currently an oven with no open windows, so our GoPro is overheating. We cannot show really much of the picture at all without it cutting out, so we're deciding to do a radio broadcast of today's game. We'll tell you all the action as it happens. Here's a payoff pitch, and popped him up on the infield. Coming in is the third baseman, and he dropped it. He let it fall. That was a miscommunication. The third baseman catches somebody in a rundown. Okay, this is just madness. Sorry. So a run did not come in to score. Infield fly rule. Yeah, so that would have been a double play. So that was actually a double play. A little funny-looking double play, but the third baseman came charging on Kyle McDaniel on a pop-up on the infield, and it dropped to the ground, but the infield fly rule was called, so it was an automatic out. And Blake Boutz at first didn't know that, so he was caught in the middle of no man's land. He got tagged out trying to get back to first.
And Christian Perez is looking around like, what just happened? He was getting ready for his at-bat, and I think everybody wants an explanation. I'll tell you what, this place just continues to get weirder and weirder with the things that have happened.
The infield fly rule, the umpires never made a signal, which is what Ty LeBrun is talking about right now, which is why I was confused. Normally they would make a gesture to suggest that the infield fly rule was in effect, but I did not see any such ruling. All the Miners base runners are still out there. If this call was reversed, then there would be runners on first and third. Actually, I think the bases would be loaded with just one out, because Boutz was doubled off trying to get back to first because he didn't know that the infield fly rule was in effect because nobody told him.
Yeah, and that's going to be the question in this situation, because the throw back to first was in time. They were able to get that out, which would automatically result in that double play. But Tyler Brunn, like you mentioned, trying to argue that there was never one called. And the question is, will they look at that and go back and reverse it? And
they're still discussing.
What can they do in that situation?
We've seen some very strange official reviews happen so far in this series, and every time they've done it, they've ended up reversing the call that they made. Let's see. Tyler Brunn is not happy. The umpires don't have any kind of microphones, so...
Looks like they're going to uphold this.
Yeah. It appears that the inning is going to be over.
Well,
no. So, no, actually. Oh, yeah, they're all coming out in the field. Yep, so that will be the end of the inning. Good luck scoring that. At the top of the third, comes and goes with no score. 0-0 the score remains. You're listening to Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. Ready for the action here in the bottom of the third. After a wild end to the previous frame, the Oilers now get to bat. Brock Worthgen, Max Rothwarg, and Petey Soto, the three due up against Rocco Bernardina. Ty LeBrun was out in between innings talking with the umpires again. I don't know, I've never umpired a game, so I can't say exactly, but you wonder if sometimes the umpires just forget on a routine infield pop-up that you do, in fact, need to call infield fly every time that happens, and they did not. So not exactly a call that you can reverse as strike one comes into Brock Worthgen, the catcher batting against Bernardina, but just an interesting occurrence there, 0-2 now.
Yeah, it was very bizarre the way the play was set up. It's almost as if the Miners base runners had a delayed reaction because I believe they assumed, like we did, that there was no infield fly called on that play, and there wasn't, to be fair. So I don't know what else they could have done.
Off the end of the bat into right center field by Worthgen. Kerr makes the catch, one away.
So now if you're Matsu, you've seen some of the weirdest things take place in this series already, and you add another chapter to that book. Let's see how they respond in this situation. One thing Matsu has shown is that even in these weird circumstances, they don't usually let it get to them, and that first out, an example of that potentially.
Max Rothwarg, the designated hitter, 9-man in this Oilers order, tries to lay down a bunt and fouls it off.
Rothwarg's also been a second baseman for the Oilers in this series and has done a pretty solid job in that spot, working as the DH today in the 9-hole hitter. And a lot of times you put guys in this spot because you believe they can be an add-on to the guys at the top of the order and you can get something going offensively, and we'll see if that rings true.
On the ground to third base, Wilcox throwing across to Perez, and he's got it, out number 2.
Nice work by Wilcox that time, and I was very intrigued by the way he threw that baseball. A little bit of a wind-up with his right arm, able to get it to Christian Perez, almost a bit nonchalant, although obviously it took a lot of power. It was a really interesting form and able to get it to first base in time for out 2.
Petey Soto led off this game with a single, was then cut down on a fielder's choice. He will bat with 2 away as the Oilers are into their second time through the order. Bernardina, through one rotation, has allowed 1 hit, struck out 2, hit a batter, and allowed 1 to reach on a fielder's choice, but no Oilers have made it to second base yet. Got a piece of that one, quick 0-2.
Yeah, chopped it a little bit to the left that time. Pretty good contact off the end of the bat, but right now the Oilers, much like the Miners, just unable to get any leverage on this defense.
0-2. Cut and a miss. He got him. Soto goes down on strikes in a nice clean 1-2-3 inning with no base runners for the first time. Rocco Bernardina, just like all the Miners pitchers before him for the most part during this series, is cruising. Let's see if the offense can hold up their end of the bargain. If they do, it'll be Dylan Simmons making the call. He'll take you through the middle part of this game. You're listening to Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube.
Welcome to Bizarro World. I mean, Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark, where the rules of baseball are sometimes a little bit different than the things we know. It's the Matsu Miners and the Peninsula Oilers, and I only say that because we've seen some strange occurrences throughout this series and had a strange infield fly mistake in the top half of the third inning, but the score is still 0-0 between the Miners and the Oilers, and Christian Perez leading off number 4 in the order for Matsu. It'll be Perez, Durand, and Strohmeyer here in the top of the fourth inning. It is still Ryan Hughes on the mound. So far, so good, although he has issued his fair share of walks in this game. Perez will foul one off to the right of the first base line, and the count goes to 0-1.
Christian Perez walked in the first inning, was one of 2 straight walks issued with 2 outs, later got to second on a wild pitch, but was stranded there.
Perez, a lefty batter, and as you mentioned, he forced a walk in his first at-bat and then advanced to second. This pitch is well inside. It gets away from the catcher Worthgen, and the count will even at 1-1 strike. Unable to completely get his glove on it. Another low pitch in the dirt. We've seen that a few times today from Hughes. And a 1-1 on the way to the man from Arizona. Perez, a high fly ball to left field, coming towards it is Vogelsong, and he makes the catch. 1 out.
Perez still trying to get a solid piece of hitting. It has been a while since he has had one of those impact doubles. As a whole, the Mat-Su Miners with just 1 extra base hit during this road trip.
So in comes the lone man who has struck out in this game for Mat-Su, Brandon Durand. Struck out swinging on a 2-2 count. This is a ground ball towards third, and it got through 2 defenders, and Brandon Durand is on with a single, as both McDaniel and Soto both couldn't make a play on it.
Wow, he needed that. That's his first hit in almost a week and a half, and it ends a massive slump. He is on base at last, and could this be the spark the Miners need?
Yeah, both McDaniel and Soto looked to have some sort of play on it, and neither one could secure that baseball. And like you mentioned, that is a huge break for Durand. A single for him, and that brings on Kellen Strohmeyer. 1 away, pitch on the way from Hughes. This pitch is high and outside. Ball 1.
Kellen Strohmeyer drew a leadoff walk in the second inning, but was then doubled off.
So for Hughes, that is only one of a couple of hits that he's given up in this game so far. Runner on first. Not the first time we've seen that from Mat-Su, however. As, like I said before, Hughes has issued his fair share of walks, puts this one high for ball 2. So Kellen Strohmeyer was able to reach base on a walk in his first at-bat, that coming on a 3-1 count. Trying to do that once again. It would be his 4th walk, or rather 5th walk secured this year. This pitch is low but in the zone for strike 1. 2-1 count to the Hawkeye.
He's not demonstrated that he can find the zone consistently, so Strohmeyer content with taking it slow. He's already drawn a walk from Hughes so far today.
That's a great way to play this. Check swing, and it's going to be called for ball number 2, or actually ball number 3. So the count goes to 3-1.
Surprised Worthington didn't even appeal that, because that was very close to going around.
Yeah, I thought initially that we might see an appeal, but none from the catcher. 3-1 count for Strohmeyer. Hughes taking his time, fires in the pitch, and a swing and a miss. Count goes to 3-2.
That was a nice curveball there. Strohmeyer lost patience for an instant and paid for it.
Yeah, a little bit early that time, and like you mentioned, great breaking ball from Ryan Hughes. That's the kind of pitch that he's been looking for. A payoff pitch with 1 out. Hughes fires away. Strohmeyer will swing and miss, and that's going to be strike 3. So Kellen Strohmeyer with 2 straight cuts and 2 straight misses, and that is the 2nd strikeout of the game for Ryan Hughes. 2 away.
Big one for Hughes. He's got a lot of movement on his pitches, obviously, for better and for worse, but when he's on, it's very tough to hit him, as we just saw. Logan Vaughn is grounded out so far in this game. He bats with 2 men on. Brandon Durand ended his slump in this inning, so can Vaughn do the same?
Logan Vaughn still looking for his first hit of the season for Mat-Su in official ABL play. Had a couple of hits in the Mulcahy Showcase, the MLB Showcase, as the count goes to 1-0 here. Brandon Durand trying to make it to second base. Score a run for Mat-Su, which would be his 3rd total run of the year. This is fouled back, and the count will go to 1-1.
It's just been so difficult for Mat-Su to score recently, so any opportunity, any base runner is one step closer to them breaking out of this funk and returning to the natural order of things.
Mat-Su has not scored a run now in nearly 11 innings, or check it, actually 13 innings against these Peninsula Oilers. This ball is fouled back towards the top of the netting, and the count goes to 1-2. Matsu has just been really struggling offensively against this Oilers squad. They scored no runs last night. They scored 1 run in game number 1 and just 3 runs in game number 2. They had 45 runs in the first 5 games, and it's been tough sledding ever since. A 1-2 pitch. And a swing and a miss from Logan Vaughn. Another strikeout for Ryan Hughes. The second straight will end the top half of the 4th inning. And Matsu remains scoreless. We'll be back for the bottom of the 4th. You're watching Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back to the land of salmon and sea, Kenai, Alaska. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call with you this evening. It's the Matsu Miners and the Peninsula Oilers in Game 4 of 5 of this 5-game series at Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark. Score still tied at 0-0 between the Miners and the Oilers. It'll be Kyle McDaniel, the number 2 man in the order, leading off for Peninsula in this inning. And Rocco Bernardina, the man from Newcastle, Pennsylvania, and playing for Kent State, still on the mound, as that's going to be ball number 1 on a pitch low. McDaniel showing bunt that time.
So we've got a MAC battle between these two pitchers, Kent State and Toledo.
Yeah, the Golden Flashes and the Rockets, 2 teams that have both played MTSU in recent years, my home school. This is a high fly ball deep to right field, but hardly having to make a move on it is Kellen Strohmeyer, and that's going to be an easy fly out to right for out 1.
Definitely the hardest hit ball on either side today, but it falls harmlessly into the outfielder's glove, as so many often do, for out number 1.
Colin Robson now at the plate as he steps into the batter's box and scrapes the plate. So far, Robson struck out swinging in his first at-bat to Rocco Bernardino, one of his 3 Ks in this game. Bernardino fires in an inside pitch, and boy, that went over the back. It looked like of Robson, and that's going to be an easy call for ball 1.
Yeah, it would have hit him in the head if he hadn't ducked out of the way. It's more inside than just on top of.
That it was. Now Bernardino's going to try to make it better, as it's going to be a ground ball towards second base. Richard can't make a play on it. Check it, it's Patrizi as he lost track of the baseball. It went right underneath him, and that's going to be a man on first base for the Oilers and Colin Robson. An E4.
That infield defense having lapses at the worst possible moments. Trend continues there. Patrizi can't handle it. Pretty routine ball, just eats him up. Robson on board for the first time.
So now it's Elijah Vogelsong at the plate after Patrizi unable to hold that baseball. An E4, the first error of the day for the Miners. They had 2 errors yesterday against the Oilers, which contributed to their 2-0 loss. Here's a fly ball to right center field, and this one is going to be caught by Richard, or by Patrizi. Throw to first, and that's going to be an out of double play for Matsu.
That was just the ultimate redemption. He heard us in the booth, and he proceeded to do a much more impressive defensive play than that ground ball would have been.
And maybe eventually I'll get his name right. Dom Patrizi able to get the double play, and Matsu will go on to the top half of the 5th inning. You're watching or listening to Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back to Kenai, Alaska. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call. It is a 0-0 baseball game between the Miners and the Oilers in game number 4 of 5 here in this ABL series. Charlie, there's a new pitcher on the mound, Emerson Fleck from Washington State.
Ryan Hughes' day is done after issuing 4 walks, striking out 3 and giving up 2 hits. Did not allow a run, as the custom has been for pitchers facing the Miners as of late, but he will be relieved by Emerson Fleck, who this team saw a couple times recently, once in the game on Sunday and then once in the MLB Showcase as well. Fleck out of Spokane, Washington State, or soon to be heading to Washington State, I should say, out of Spokane, Washington. Played for Meade Senior High School in Spokane, as well as the Expos Blue 16U club team, where he had 3 1/3 innings, 10.80 ERA. Not as experienced as some of the other pitchers on this staff, but as we saw in that MLB Showcase, effective none the same.
Chase Wilcox at the plate for Matsu, the number 8 man in the order. It'll be Wilcox, Richard, and Drake Kerr, 8-9-1, leading off in this frame for the Miners. Wilcox flew out to left field in his last at-bat. Matsu trying to get on the board first in this game. It's been very quiet so far between these two teams. But it only feels like a matter of time before somebody breaks through as Emerson Fleck gets ready to deal his first pitch of this game. Pitch on the way from Fleck, low, and the count goes to 1-0. Brock Worthgen able to bring it in, but had to get extra control of it for just a second.
Wilcox flied out to left, to end the second inning. Strand a runner. His first at bat in a few days.
No count. Wilcox checks swing, and it's going to be a strike. That time it found the zone just barely. Painting the outside corner is Emerson Fleck. Count goes to 1-1.
Sun has moved a bit in the sky. The shadows are getting a bit longer, so I remain cautiously optimistic that we might be able to get video at some point during this game, maybe in the later stages, but until then, hope we're doing an acceptable job.
Count goes to 1-2 here. Emerson Fleck with 3 1/3 innings pitched on the season so far. He's given up 2 hits and 4 earned runs for a 10.80 ERA in total for the Oilers. Matsu trying to use that to their advantage and potentially put themselves on the scoreboard first. A 1-2 to Wilcox lets this pitch go by. It's high, and the count evens at 2 balls and 2 strikes. About at the level of Wilcox's head, as Matsu tries to get something going here.
Wilcox on the season batting .200 has 6 runs batted in, 5 of which came against these Oilers 1 week ago today. The final game at Herman Brothers Field.
2-2 count. Wilcox swings and misses, and that's going to be a strikeout swinging. How about 3 straight now for the Oilers? It started with Ryan Hughes, and now it goes to Emerson Fleck, 1 away.
Miners hitters just can't consistently make contact. It's a story that started a couple days ago and continues through today.
Ryan Hughes struck out Kellen Strohmeyer and Logan Vaughn in the top of the 4th, and now Emerson Fleck strikes out Chase Wilcox in the top of the 5th. Ryan Richard at the plate, man who flew out to center in his last at-bat. This ball is popped up deep into center field, and again it's going to be Robson camping under it who makes the catch, and for the second consecutive at-bat, Ryan Richard flies out to center field.
Since the 3rd inning, Brandon Duran's single is the only base runner that the Oilers pitchers have allowed. Drake Kerr did get a single in his last at-bat, is also grounded out. We're already in our 3rd trip through the order.
So Drake Kerr at the plate. He has a single so far that he secured in his last plate appearance. As there are 2 outs for Matsu here, that's going to be a strike. Nice fastball from Fleck, and the count goes to 0-1.
Fleck is already dealing much more efficiently than his predecessor was. Hughes was getting the outs when he needed them, but he was taking a while, throwing a lot of pitches. Fleck showing no signs of control issues so far as the umpire calls, or Kerr in the batter's box calls time.
Yeah, Kerr calling time momentarily. That single was an incredible bunt that helped spark something for the Matsu offense, although they weren't able to capitalize on it. Count is 0-1 with 1 out. Kerr will foul this one off as it goes somewhere towards the right field area. Count will stay, or rather go to 0-2. So Drake Kerr, who had 27 at-bats coming into this game with 7 total hits, which is tied for second on the team, already now with 8 on the season after that single today, trying to get hit number 9 right here. Kerr waits, and Fleck will take his time as Kerr, it looks like, calls time once again.
Both offenses dormant so far in this game. The Miners actually with 2 hits, the Oilers just 1.
0-2 count. Kerr lets it go by, and a strikeout looking. So Drake Kerr is struck out by Emerson Fleck as Fleck manages 2 strikeouts in the top half of the 5th inning. And again, much like the previous games in this series, the Oilers' pitching has been superb. We're on to the bottom half of the 5th. You're watching Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back to Kenai, Alaska. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call. You are watching, or rather listening today, to Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. Score still 0-0 between the Miners and the Oilers. It's been a fairly uneventful game so far, although there have been some superb defensive plays on both sides, but neither offense able to gain any traction so far. We'll see if that changes, as it'll be Ty Thomas who leads off. Rocco Bernardina still on the mound as we begin play in the bottom half of the 5th inning. And a nice breaking ball to start things off by Bernardina. Count goes to 0-1.
Ty Thomas was Bernardina's second strikeout victim back in the 2nd inning. He's got 3 overall.
And there's a swing and a miss. A cut by Ty Thomas, and the count goes to 0-2. Matsu coming off a solid season a year ago of 23-16. The Oilers coming off an 18-20 season. but they got hot late on in the year as that pitch is high and tight. Count goes to 1-2. Peninsula was 6-4 in their final 10 games of the ABL season last year to make it to the ABL playoffs as the 4th seed. These two teams met in the semifinal round with Matsu winning in 3. This ball is flown out and popped up into shallow right field, and Patrizi makes the catch. That's going to be out number 1.
Finally remembered his name. He's been atoning for the little momentary blunder he made on that Colin Robson grounder. Did not end up mattering much, and I was due almost exclusively to his exceptional play on Elijah Vogelsong Lewis's pop-out.
Yeah, that incredible double play is what we saw that ended the bottom. Oh my gracious, it's going to be another hit by pitch for Rocco Bernardina, and on the same guy, Cole Wilson. So for 2 consecutive times, Cole Wilson has forced a hit by pitch against the Miners.
And Wilson had some words for Bernardina as he walked down the first base line. He kind of gestured to him, and the two said a few words back and forth. I don't know if that was in a joking manner, but based on the way Wilson was looking at him, did not appear to be. And now Vaughn out to talk with Bernardina.
Yeah, there was some obvious frustration from Cole Wilson that he displayed at Rocco Bernardina. Of course, we can't read lips, but obviously...
Not that we could have seen their lips anyway.
Exactly, but...
Both of those hit by pitches hit him on the head, too.
Yeah.
So...
That was something that obviously Cole Wilson would probably be upset by. I don't think Bernardina obviously meant it on purpose. Just a unfortunate circumstance. But now a runner on first and 1 out, as we'll see the next man up, Cole Dawson at the plate, who had a 6-4 ground out in his first plate appearance. Bernardina with a pitch, a bunt laid down, and it's going to roll foul, as it will be to the left of the third base line. Chase Wilcox, the third baseman, came in on it, but he did not have to worry as it was not a fair ball, an 0-1 count.
I think this happened last night, too, where somebody started off the game by getting hit by a pitch twice in a row, if I recall.
Yeah, it seems like a familiar situation. Can't remember exactly how that went down.
Yeah, it was Cole Wilson, the guy. It was Cole Wilson, actually, yeah. So he's been hit by 4 pitches in the last 2 games.
2 straight days into different pitchers. Cole Wilson must have some sort of baseball magnet somewhere on his uniform to keep having these hit by pitches come in towards him. As we see, here is a throw off towards second base. The runner, Wilson, is caught in no man's land. Matsu trying to get him out. They keep throwing between first and second. Wilson still on the run, and finally it looks like they tagged him out as there's a tumble taken by, it looks like that is Ryan Richard, who came all the way over from the shortstop position, able to finally get a Wilson out, and it took a while, but they finally took care of the base runner.
Wilson, that was something out of a cartoon. Wilson was kind of tiptoeing between first and second, not even running, just hoping no one would notice. Vaughn noticed, threw it down to second, and he didn't even run either way. He just kind of stood there, waited for one of the fielders to make a mistake, banking on an error, but unfortunately for him, that gamble did not pay off. So it'll be 2 down, bases empty now for Dawson.
Yeah, that was a very costly mess up on the base paths, as that's a breaking ball for a strike. Count goes to 0-1 on Cole Dawson, or check it actually should be 0-2 now, I believe. As time is going to be called briefly by Dawson. And all of a sudden, the Oilers, who had a pretty solid situation there for a second, all of a sudden have no runners on base and 2 outs. And Matsu the chance to bring this to the top half of the 6th inning. Bernardina the pitch, and it's low and in the dirt. Count will go to 1-2.
I believe 2-2. Or did they put a ball in the wrong spot?
I believe they put a ball in the wrong spot. We'll keep an eye on that for you if anything changes on that front. Bernardina the pitch. This is a fly ball into right center field for a base hit. It gets down right in front of Drake Kerr, and that's going to be a single for Cole Dawson no matter what the count is.
Second hit allowed by Bernardina, and now that base running blunder all the more costly, because this would be first and second with 1 out, or possibly even first and third with 1 out if Wilson had been able to get in with a stolen base. Instead, just a runner on first with 2 outs, and Worthgen at the plate.
So Brock Worthgen now at the plate, who had a fly out to center field in his first plate appearance, working as the backstop today for Peninsula. Matsu trying to get that all-elusive third out in this frame. There's a strike, and the count goes to 0-1. Cole Dawson at first base, maybe looking at taking away second if at all possible. Bernardina and Vaughn will, of course, both be ready. And Vaughn very good at throwing people out from the catcher spot.
That's something all three catchers on the roster have excelled at this season. That's low 1-1.
Yeah, he's been really good, as have both Bouts and Brandon Duran, like you mentioned. That's been one thing that Matsu's been able to certainly hang their hats on defensively. Makes it very hard to steal base against them. There's a throw to first. Unable to do anything with Cole Dawson. Brock Worthgen at the plate.
Setting just .059 this season. One hit in 17 at-bats.
And this ball is going to be popped up and fouled. You could see that the man at first base, Cole Dawson, was trying to make a move to second, but he'll have to quickly retreat back to the first base bag.
Well, but you say you could see, we could see it. The people at home couldn't, for those just joining in. It's a very hot day in Alaska. This press box is an oven with no open windows, and our camera has been overheating, so we are unable to show any video. If we do, then the camera is going to cut out before the end of the inning.
1-2 count. This is going to be a shot into the gap for a base hit, right between the shortstop and the third baseman. Back-to-back singles for the Oilers. Brock Worthgen delivers, and it's going to be 2 outs with runners on first and second.
Just the second hit of his season, and again, if that stolen base had been successful and not a pickoff, that would have scored a run. So the Oilers and Cole Wilson have to be kicking themselves right now. If Bernardina can get this out and escape the inning without a run, it will be a massive break for Matsu.
That it certainly will. Max Rothwarg looking to hope that that is not the case and do something about it with his bat. Man, with 17 at-bats on the season heading into this, and this is going to be another shot right into the same spot. Coming around is Wilson, and he is going to score for the Oilers as they strike first. It's going to be a 2-out single for Max Rothwarg.
Bouts in his secondary position in left field bobbled that ball. He might have been able to make a play on it, but instead it's just an RBI single. Rothwarg comes through again for the second straight day. He's finally gotten an RBI. He was waiting for one for a while. And 1-0 the score.
So now a 1-0 lead for the Peninsula Oilers, and that mistake made by Cole Wilson earlier on in the inning, although still costly, isn't going to be as bad as it could be as the Oilers are able to get on the board. And now we'll see P.D. Soto come up to the plate as we're back to the top of the order. Brock Worthgen at second, Max Rothwarg at first. It was Cole Dawson who scored the run, and there's a strike. Count goes to 0-1 on Soto.
Soto with a strikeout and a single in this game.
He got that single in his first at-bat on a full count against Bernardina. As all of a sudden the Peninsula Oilers with 3 straight singles having some success. This ball fouled off the end of the bat of Soto. Count will go to 0-2. The Oilers striking first in this game as they've often done over the course of this series. Matsu more often than not has been playing from behind. It took 5 innings in this game, but the Oilers have finally hit pay dirt. Matsu is going to have to try to muster a response, but first things first, they've got to figure it out on defense. That pitch is outside the zone, and the count will go to 1-2. Just a little bit away for Rocco Bernardina.
Very close on that one.
Yeah, Matsu trying to avoid going under 500 for the first time this season. Got off to a 4-1 start. They've lost 3 straight to the Oilers. This ball's popped up. It's going to be unplayable as it goes somewhere towards the crowd, and the count's going to stay at 1-2 strikes for the shortstop, P.D. Soto. Soto has done a pretty good job as the shortstop for the Oilers this season. Man out of St. George, Utah, and Utah Tech, 5'9", 160. Had a season-high 4 hits versus Cal Baptist back on May 16th when he was still playing for Utah Tech. Also a freshman for them, so he's got a lot of good years left, even after this one. Bernardina, that's going to be a swing and a miss and a strikeout. So Rocco Bernardina does answer the call late. That's his 4th K, but the Oilers get on the scoreboard first. Max Rothward part of a 3-tandem back-to-back singles, and Rothward delivers an RBI single that puts the Oilers on the board. They're up 1-0 here in Kenai. You're listening to Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back to Kenai, Alaska. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call. This is game number 4 of a 5-game series between the Mat-Su Miners and the Peninsula Oilers. Blake Bouts leading off for the Miners here in this frame. They're down 1-0 to Peninsula after an RBI single was delivered by Max Rothward, the 9-hole hitter, in the last frame of action.
Blake Bouts has walked and grounded out in this game. Keep on saying it, and I'll continue to keep on saying it. Could anyone in this frame deliver the spark that this Mat-Su offense so desperately needs?
We know Blake Bouts is capable of it. He had a 2 RBI night a couple nights ago against these same Oilers. He lets that pitch go by. It's inside for ball number 1. Bouts playing as the left fielder today. He's been a pinch hitter and a catcher so far for Mat-Su this season. First time working in the outfield. That's going to be strike 1.
And he made a bit of a misplay out in left. Nothing I'd call an error, but he was fielding a ball on the ground, couldn't quite get his hand on it, and any chance of potentially maybe making a play at home went up in smoke with that.
Bouts was the leadoff hitter yesterday for Mat-Su. Here's a chopper right side, right to the second baseman. Throw to the bag is in time, a 4-3 putout. Cole Dawson and Ty Thomas link up, 1 away.
There's a lot of weak contact being forced by Fleck so far. If he's forced any contact at all, 2 of his first 4 batters he's faced, he has struck out.
Dom Patrizi, one of the top batters on the Miners roster, the team leader in RBIs, and tied for second on the team in hits with 7 coming into this game. .226 average on the season, a .351 on-base percentage. He sends a rocket into right center field, but Colin Robson camps under it and makes the catch easily. 2 away. Pretty good shot for Patrizi that time. That's one of the best hit balls that we've seen in this game, but again, just unable to get it to set into the gap. That fly ball easily caught, and now it'll be Christian Perez on.
Perez has walked, made it to second, and was stranded there in the first inning. Also hit a ball out to left field.
Perez awaiting the pitch from Fleck. Lets this one go by, and that's going to be ball number 1. A little bit outside that time and high.
Fleck has just been cutting through the Miners so far. Has not allowed anything in the way of base runners or momentum at all.
This is going to be a bloop shot towards shallow left field, and the left fielder comes in and gets it, Elijah Vogelsong-Lewis. And that is going to be a quick 1-2-3 inning for the Mat-Su Miners here in the top half of the 6th inning. Again, it's tough sledding 6th inning. You're watching Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back to Kenai, Alaska. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call. It is a 1-0 game. The Peninsula Oilers on top of the Mat-Su Miners. As we will see our next man up, it's McDaniel coming up for the Oilers. Kyle McDaniel, 2-3-4 to lead off. Both, or all of them, in their third at-bat of the game. Rocco Bernardina still on the mound. This Oilers offense able to put an RBI single on the board, courtesy of Max Rothwarg in the bottom of the fifth, and trying to add to it right here.
Rocco Bernardina still out there. He's allowed 4 hits, but also 4 strikeouts. More importantly, that ultra-important run. No matter how small a lead, it's been tough for the Miners to overcome so far this series.
Bernardina with the pitch. This ball is lined out into shallow left field for a base hit right in front of Blake Bouts. A leadoff single here for Kyle McDaniel, the third baseman, 1 aboard.
That'll be 5 hits now. Second for McDaniel.
As Colin Robson will come on, and like you mentioned, able to get on base once again for the Oilers in this game. And Rocco Bernardina had things come apart just a little bit in the bottom half of the fifth inning, gave up 3 straight singles, and now gives up a single to lead off the bottom half of the sixth inning. So you wonder what will be his limit as this game moves forward, and what will head coach Tyler Brunn do here. A bunt's laid down by Colin Robson. Throw to first is in time by Chase Wilcox. Nice play by him. Able to get out number 1, but it does advance Kyle McDaniel to second base.
Good play by Wilcox. A nice connection from Wilcox to Perez to get that out. It was pretty close. An excellent bunt laid down by Robson, but advances the runner into scoring position. A couple batters due up now are Vogelsong, Lewis, and Thomas, who are a combined 0 for 4.
Yeah, but Elijah Vogelsong Lewis, who so far in this game has grounded out twice to the Mat-Su Miners, as part of that final out secured in the top half of the sixth inning. And now the Miners with 1 out here in the bottom half of the sixth, trying to limit the damage that the Oilers can sustain. This is going to be a swing and a miss, and the count goes to 0-1 on Vogelsong Lewis, the left fielder.
He had a tough day yesterday as well. He and Thomas actually both were 0 for 4 yesterday as well. So since the start of the last game, they are 0 for 6, when the lineup around them has been producing pretty well.
That pitch goes outside, and the count evens at 1 ball and 1 strike. Elijah Vogelsong Lewis, the man out of Marshall in Portsmouth, Ohio. Former basketball player as well, and football player for that matter. Conference Player of the Year in high school. This ball is going to be flown out into center field. Drake Kerr's right there, and he will make the catch. And it looks like we're going to see McDaniel stay at second base. Smart decision, because we know that Drake Kerr has a cannon for an arm and probably could have gotten it to the hot corner in time, but 2 away regardless. That'll send on Ty Thomas.
Yeah, he feigned going just to keep Kerr honest, but he was never going to actually try that, because when you play a team 5 games in a row, eventually you get to know who can field, and Drake Kerr certainly can field.
That he absolutely can. Ty Thomas at the plate now for the Oilers, who has struck out once and popped 1 out to second base in his last plate appearance. 2 outs here in the bottom half of the sixth, and we see Colin Robson Kyle McDaniel trying to move on to third base.
Just kind of dancing around there, getting in Rocco Bernardina's head. This is almost certainly his last inning of work.
Yeah, I'd have to imagine that he's getting close to hitting that limit. This is a breaking ball, a nice curveball by Bernardina, and the count will go to 0-1.
Still got his stuff, though. That was a beautiful curve.
Yeah, he hasn't lost that consistency when it comes to his pitches, in terms of the form at least. Still laying in some nice strikes. Trying to do it one more time here on Thomas and bring this game back to the top of the seventh. That's going to be fouled off by Thomas right off the end of his bat, and the count will go to 0-2 for the first baseman. The Mat-Su Miners trying to avoid their 4th consecutive loss and dipping below 500 for the first time this season. It has been a long time since Mat-Su has had this much trouble down in Kenai, Alaska, and they're trying to turn it around. Bernardina the pitch, and this time he got the strikeout. A K looking on Ty Thomas, and that will end the bottom half of the 6th inning. A clutch 5th strikeout for Bernardina, and that will bring us to the top half of the 7th. The Oilers still on top 1-0. You're listening to Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back. You're listening in to Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube. Special radio broadcast today due to our GoPro camera having a malfunction in the junction. But regardless, we are still bringing baseball to you to the best of our ability. Right now, it's a 1-0 game. The Peninsula Oilers on top of the Mat-Su Miners. Brandon Durand at the plate, the number 5 man in the order for Mat-Su. It'll be Durand, Strohmeyer, and Logan Vaughn to lead off in this frame. Emerson Fleck still on the bump, and the Oilers pitching has been simply superb in this game so far, as that ball is fouled towards the left field line. The count goes to 0-1.
That was a massive foul ball. Shout out to Steve Hecker in the YouTube chat, the pitching coach for Mat-Su, saying boom after the end of that last inning. We agree. Mat-Su's pitching has been on point in this game with just the 1 run allowed.
Steve, are you listening in from the dugout right now? Obviously, he must be tuning in. Well, glad to have you, Steve. Hope you're enjoying the broadcast from up here in the press box. And Brandon Durand trying to help your team to tie this game up.
Durand has the last hit, actually the last base runner in the game for the Miners, a single back in the 4th.
That coming in his second at-bat of this game. Here's the pitch, low by Fleck towards the dirt, and the count will go to 1-1. Kellen Strohmeyer on deck for Mat-Su. He's also reached base once today, but the Miners have had issues generating hits in this game. But if there was ever a time to awaken that offense that we know can be so explosive, it would be right here and right now. Durand check swing. It's going to be ball number 2, it looks like.
Just avoided going around there. That was close to the strike zone too, but umpire gives him a favorable call.
Durand will take it and try to use that to his advantage. Here's the pitch from Fleck. This ball is going to be fouled all the way back towards the batting cages over there. And the count goes to 2-2. They're right behind the Miners' dugout and behind the crowd. That's where the Miners were warming up pregame.
Keep seeing these massive foul balls with home run distance hit by Durand. It's only a matter of time until one of them gets on the other side of that pole.
As that's going to be a fair ball along the third base line. Throw to first is not going to be in time. Durand made it. How about the placement on that single, as that ball was on a tightrope along the third base line, and Brandon Durand has reached first base once again with a 2-out single.
That was a really, really close play. I want to shout out Kyle McDaniel on that. First of all, for not even letting that go past him. It was right along the third base line. You see a lot of those balls bounce weird off the bag and go into left field, but he got his glove on it, threw it over to Ty Thomas at first. It was a really close play, but Durand gets the benefit of the doubt. Steve Hecker, we couldn't agree more. It's time to get some runs. Runner goes here.
As the ball gets away from the catcher, Worthgen on to second is Brandon Durand. No outs for the Miners, by the way. I was looking at the scoreboard for a brief second. It said 2 outs, and fortunately caught it at the wrong time. But one guy who's not catching anything at the wrong time is Brandon Duran. Now he's on to second as that ball got away from the catcher Worthgen. And now Kellen Strohmeyer trying to send him to home plate and tie this game up.
That would have been a stolen base regardless, I think. He had a pretty good jump. So Durand on second with none out. As good a chance as the Miners have had so far today, with Strohmeyer and Logan Vaughn due up along with Chase Wilcox.
Strohmeyer struck out swinging in his second at-bat. Here's the pitch from Fleck. Strohmeyer fouls it off the end of his bat, and that will head towards the cages once again. Count is going to be 0-1.
So that was the first real hard knock of any kind allowed by Emerson Fleck. He was perfect through the first 6 men he'd faced. Matsu trying to change the tide here in the 7th inning.
Strohmeyer has been a difference maker before back in Iowa. Now the Hawkeye trying to send a ball towards space. This ball is outside for ball number 2, or check it, ball number 1, and the count goes to 1-1 for the Miners.
I respect your ability to keep the count consistent all this time. The scoreboard is not working right now.
And doing our best to keep track of it. That should be ball number 2 as it went in a little bit low towards the catcher Worthgen. Able to keep it in front of him, and right now that may be one of the most important things for the Oilers as they're trying to prevent Brandon Durand from reaching third base and maybe further. We hear it might be a 3-1 count in this situation. So big one for Strohmeyer. This is a fly ball towards left field, back towards the wall, sending Vogelsong back, and he is not going to be able to make the catch. Coming around towards third now is Durand, and now runners on second and third for Matsu, and a massive double for Kellen Strohmeyer.
Just as we say it as well, Steve Hecker, we need to get you in the YouTube chat more often. As soon as you show up, the Miners offense suddenly remembers how to hit. We've got a single by Durand, and then Strohmeyer with just the second extra base hit of the series. He gets one over the head of Elijah Vogelsong-Lewis. I thought that might have a chance off his bat, and based on the way Vogelsong-Lewis was running, it landed right at the base of the wall. Did not drive in a run, but now second and third with none out. Logan Vaughn has a chance to do some serious damage.
Yeah, I thought Durand was going to score a run for just a second, but decided to stay at third base and not push the issue. But Logan Vaughn now, who does not have a hit yet in the ABL season, with an opportunity at an RBI in his first ABL hit. As that goes for a strike, count goes to 0-1 on that breaking ball from Fleck, who is trying to limit the damage against the opportunistic Matsu Miners, who are looking to take their first lead of the game.
Vaughn now 0 for 18 so far in this ABL season.
Infield playing in. That pitch again outside. Count's going to go to 1-1 on Vaughn, who struck out swinging in his last at-bat and grounded out into a double play in his first at-bat. And it looks like we will get a Mountain Conference. Head coach Larry McCann making his way from the dugout. Going to have a conversation on the bump with Emerson Fleck. There is some action, it looks like, in the Oilers' bullpen, although limited. So as of right now, I'd say he's going to leave Fleck out there, but obviously you want to make sure to course-correct things, if at all possible, as Matsu is on the doorstep of taking that lead.
I believe that's actually the pitching coach for Peninsula, so yeah, no pitching change imminent here, but assuming nobody gets thrown out on the base paths, it will be Logan Vaughn, Chase Wilcox, and Ryan Richard, batters 7, 8, and 9, in this lineup. Wilcox, of course, always dangerous. And then after Vaughn, this will be the second time through the order against Emerson Fleck. You see he's already faltering a bit after being so sharp through his first 2 frames. Logan Vaughn's going to try and help to chase him out of this game, or at least out of the comfort zone he's been in.
So Logan Vaughn at the plate, runners on second and third for Matsu. Strohmeyer at second, Brandon Durand at third. Matsu is 90 feet away from tying this game. They need one big swing from Vaughn. This ball fouled up and over the cages, and the count goes to 1-2. Logan Vaughn, the catcher today for the Miners, has done a solid job in that spot. Like I said before, he does not yet have an ABL hit this season, But what a time it would be and what a moment it would be to get one right here. Emerson Fleck trying to make sure that doesn't happen. And by the way, still no outs. And that's not going to find the zone, a little bit away, and the count evens at 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Fleck thought he had the K there, walking toward or off the mound, I should say, a little exasperated looking at the umpire. He'll have to earn it a little bit harder than that.
It has been a long scoreless streak for the Mat-Su Miners. Dating back to last game, they have not scored in at least 16 innings. They're trying to change that right here. Vaughn will pop this one up, and it will once again go foul. Very similar to the previous foul ball. Count staying at 2-2. Vaughn doing a great job of keeping this at-bat alive, keeping Mat-Su in the picture.
And also running up the pitch count on Emerson Fleck. Of course, you want him to get a hit or at least a sac fly here, but you can at least stand in the batter's box for a while, make him work under this beating hot sun.
Here we go, Logan Vaughn. What do you have deep down in the tank? 2-2 as he grounds this one right back to the pitcher. Throw to first is in time. That was about as unlucky of a ground out as you'll ever see. It went right to Emerson Fleck, and he had no issue just throwing that ball over to first base and Ty Thomas, and that's going to be a very unfortunate first out for Mat-Su.
Yeah, that was just dumb luck. That was in his follow-through. There's no way Fleck actually reflexively reacted to that. It was just the ball happened to teleport right into his glove, and that's going to be out number 1, and it also looks like it's going to be the end of Emerson Fleck's day.
Yep, we'll see a second consecutive mound conference here in this inning. And there will be a new pitcher, it looks like, coming out for the Oilers. We're keeping an eye over there, and there will be. We'll get that for you in just a second. But right now, the Mat-Su Miners on the doorstep of tying this game up. Score is still 1-0 Oilers in the top half of the 7th inning. If you're just joining us here on the Mat-Su Miners YouTube channel, listening in from wherever you may be, we're glad to have you on tonight as Peninsula tries to maintain their lead over the Mat-Su Miners in what's been a slugfest of a game and really a slugfest of a series.
And this is going to be Seth Bauer out of Knoxville, Tennessee, Johnson University, a 5'10 lefty. Had a 4.75 ERA and 41 2/3 innings pitched down at Johnson U.
All right, so we thought we might see him in this game. We thought we could see him starting off this game as well, but he's coming out in relief for the Oilers. The man out of Tennessee trying to take the Oilers to another victory here tonight as Dixieland Delight plays in the background. An old Southern song from the band Alabama. And we'll see if Seth Bauer can make it a delight for the Oilers.
So far this season for the Oilers, Bauer has appeared twice, thrown 4 2/3 innings, allowed 4 hits and 1 run for a 1.93 ERA.
That he has. He's going to be facing Chase Wilcox to lead off as he steps onto the mound. Wilcox, Richard, and Kerr, the next 3 batters. And there are again runners on second and third, Brandon Durand and Kellen Strohmeyer. Strohmeyer with that signature double into deep left field. Part of why Mat-Su is in this position. They got 2 straight hits off of Emerson Fleck. And then the ground out right to him by Logan Vaughn led to the substitution of Seth Bauer. Peninsula currently second in the ABL standings, above the Mat-Su Miners at 4-3 in ABL play. They got off to a 1-3 start, but they have come alive as of late against Mat-Su, and they are trying to get this thing rolling once again. Oilers can get to 5-3 with a win tonight. Mat-Su, in theory, would drop to 4-5, and they're also only a half game ahead of Chugiak, is Mat-Su right now, so a loss tonight could drop them to 4th in the ABL standings if Chugiak is able to win their next game. So there's a lot riding on this game, more than even meets the eye. And I'm sure the Miners understand that. They've been talking about it and have been very curious about where they are in the standings. Even though it's early in the season, you want to keep pace with your opponents. A team that was once tied for the ABL lead, trying to get back to that point. So this is going to be Chase Wilcox unless we see a pinch hitter in this situation.
Looks like we are.
It is. Nick Bisaccia, it looks like. So, no Chase Wilcox. He's coming out of the lineup. And now Nick Bisaccia will come on.
Bisaccia, I imagine, will take over at third base as well.
He's been very good in that spot in the past in this series. Bisaccia, a high fly ball to right center field. This one is going to get down. A run's going to score for Matsu, and we are tied here in Kenai on an RBI single by a pinch hitter, Nick Bisaccia.
We're actually ahead. I think that scored 2 runs. No, the bases weren't loaded. That just scored 1. Brandon Duran comes in from third base. It was really interesting. That ball just dropped really quick. It didn't look like it was going to be much trouble for Colin Robson out in center field, but he couldn't get to it in time. Even if he had, the run probably would have scored, but the inning continues with just 1 out. Strohmeyer gets down to third. It'll be 1-1.
RBI single for Bisaccia. Runners in the corners for Matsu. Kellen Strohmeyer now to third. Bisaccia at first. Ryan Richard at the plate. He's flown out to center twice. All tied up here in Kenai. Bunt shown and laid down. It's foul towards the backstop, and the count goes to 0-1. The Miners score for the first time in nearly 2 games against these Oilers. It's been a long time coming, but they are finally back on the scoreboard and now have an opportunity to take their first lead in a good bit.
Let's talk about Nick Bisaccia. The clutch hit coming off as a pinch hitter. Was not active originally for this game.
Here's a bunt by Richard, picked up and thrown to home. And there will be an out on Kellen Strohmeyer, who thought for a second that he got to home plate. He's still hands on his hips, trying to argue his case, but I guess he will just accept it as is. Obviously frustrated with the outcome. That was a nice throw and good awareness by Seth Bauer that time to get it to home plate, and that's 2 away with runners in the corners.
And I gotta tell you, Dylan, I really thought he got in. It looked like he got around the tag and touched the bag, which is what he was upset about. But the umpire didn't see it that way. So a critical second out. Reaching first is Ryan Richard on the fielder's choice. It'll be first and second with 2 down, and Drake Kerr at bat.
So Bisaccia moves to second. Runners on first and second for Matsu. There's a strike. Count goes to 0-1 on Drake Kerr, who so far today does have a single, that coming on an exceptional bunt earlier on, but I doubt he will attempt a bunt here with 2 outs. Have to be absolutely spectacular. Oilers need just 1 to end this frame in a 1-1 ball game. Kerr lets it go by, and it's high and tight. Count goes to 1-1. The Matsu Miners trying to break this 3-game losing streak. They've needed offense in this entire series. They've had issues generating runs with runners in position, but Nick Bisaccia changed all that a second ago. This is a bouncing ball towards left field. An off-balance throw to first is not going to make it in time, and the bases are loaded for Matsu.
That was a tough play by P.D. Soto, and shout out to him for not chucking the ball 3 feet over the first baseman's head. It looked like that's what it was going to be, considering how off balance he did. Threw it off his back foot, and just no chance for a play. Drake Kerr legs out his second hit of the game, and it's a chance for some major damage off the bat of Blake Boutz. Try saying that 5 times fast, coming up here in the 7th.
Blake Boutz at the plate. Lets this one go by, and the count goes to 1-0. Boutz has been a clutch hitter before in this series. Had that 2 RBI game in game number 2 against the Oilers, part of that 4-3 performance. And now he could really change the game here. Lets this go by, and another thing is that Worthgen has to keep this baseball in front of him. Count goes to 2-0 on the left fielder Boutz.
This is the kind of thing that we've seen the Miners do to teams in the early games. They would bide their time, and then late in the game, they would get a bunch of guys on base, and someone would get a clutch hit and blow the game open. Blake Boutz just joined the team. He takes a strike there, 2-1. We'll see if he can get a signature moment along those similar lines.
Count goes to 2-1 for Boutz here on a nice curveball by Seth Bauer, who is the only thing standing in the way of Matsu and the lead. Boutz with a fly ball out to center field. Robson chasing it, and he does make the catch. So the Miners leave the bases loaded, but they do put a run on the scoreboard. Nick Bisaccia with a clutch RBI single as a pinch hitter. We're all tied up in Kenai. We'll be back for the bottom half of the 7th inning after the stretch. You're listening to Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back to Kenai, Alaska. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call. We've got a good one brewing down here near the ocean. It's the Miners and the Oilers in game number 4 of 5 in this 5-game ABL series. We are all tied up at 1-1. Nick Bisaccia able to finally get that offensive outburst that the Miners were looking for in the top half of the 7th. An RBI single, but one caveat to that is that the Oilers were able to help the Miners leave the bases loaded with some exceptional and timely defense. And now Matsu has got to play their part defensively with a new pitcher on the mound in Ashton Johnson, the southpaw out of Salt Lake City.
Yeah, Johnson so far this year has appeared twice for 1 inning each. He has allowed a run for a total of a 4.50 ERA on the year.
So Cole Wilson, the leadoff for the Oilers in this frame. Wilson, Dawson, and Worthgen. This pitch is outside for ball number 1. Wilson has been hit twice in this game on hit by pitches by Rocco Bernardina, but perhaps a new pitcher can help alleviate some of that pain. If he gets on base, maybe it'll be in a less hurtful fashion. He pops this one up. He's probably not going to get onto base in this one as Richard camps under it in the infield and makes the catch, 1 away.
You mentioned before, of course, that timely RBI hit off the bench by Nick Bisaccia is critical, but leaving the bases loaded again, I think that's the 3rd or 4th time in the last few games that the Miners have done that. The runs are available if they want them. They just really struggle to get those big hits, those big bases clearing strikes that can just surge yourself into the lead. It came so second nature to them back in Palmer, but they just have not gotten used to playing down here in Kenai, it seems.
Count goes to 0-1 on Cole Dawson. Yeah, you're right, Charlie. It's been tough sledding offensively throughout this series, and something about this ballpark has just made it to where Matsu has been unable to really get anything going, at least not quite to the level that they had back in Palmer, and that's against some pretty big competition. What they were doing back at Herman Brothers was sensational. So many runs in every
0-2 now on Dawson.
Every game, and it is an 0-2 count. That pitch is high for ball number 1. Ashton Johnson trying to get his first strikeout after forcing the pop-up on Cole Wilson in the bottom half of this frame. Johnson, a big proponent of the breaking ball, fires in one here, and it's just fouled by Dawson to keep his at-bat alive. Barely caught enough of it.
Dawson has singled in this game, grounded into a fielder's choice, also scored the only run for the Oilers. That was back in the 5th.
Cole Dawson, the second baseman today. He's also been an outfielder in this series for the Oilers. This is a fly ball out to center. This is going to... Was it caught? No, it was not. Drake Kerr had his hand on it, but he couldn't secure the baseball. It was a heck of a catch. He laid out for it, or heck of an attempt at a catch, I should say. Just couldn't bring it in, and Cole Dawson able to get on base.
He had it in his glove. That's a brutal outfield error. You don't really see that too often, but Kerr had it. It was in his glove, and it popped out when he moved his glove up. So, really unfortunate. What looked like a circus catch out in the outfield instead turns into a one-out base runner.
It looked for just a second there that we were going to get out number 2, and instead, runner on first as Brock Worthgen's at the plate. There's a strike from Johnson. Count goes to 0-1. Biggest thing for Kerr and the Miners is they can't let it affect him. They have to keep playing solid baseball defensively. For the Oilers right now, the key is to get a run back and retake this lead, end this thing in 9 innings, and get out of here with 4 straight wins. Throw to first is not in time by Johnson. Trying to get it to Perez.
The official scorers did not give Kerr an error for that, so still just 1 on the afternoon for the Miners. That was the Patrizi bobble at second base.
Yeah, they're going to award a single to Cole Dawson in that instance, as that pitch goes outside, I believe, for what should be ball number 2. Either way, here we go. Brock Worthgen at the plate. Big pitch coming up from the southpaw. Does find the zone here, and the count goes to 1-2 for Matsu, who is doing everything they can to limit this Oilers offensive attack, which has made timely hitting over and over again in this series. It's been part of the reason they've been so good at finding ways to win. Pitch from Johnson. Ball's popped up and fouled up and over the netting. Gets into the gap against the Miners. Had one earlier in his last at-bat, a single. Got up to second but couldn't score after that. Trying to get on base for the second time in this game. He's also flown out to Drake Kerr once. A 1-2 count. Pitch in the dirt, and the count evens at 2-2. Also well outside for Johnston that time.
Max Rothwark due up, who was one of those 3 straight singles hit off of Rocco Bernardina a couple innings ago. Trying to have a different experience as Ashton Johnson to get this game back to the offense with a chance to take the lead.
2-2 count. Check swing. Appeal to first base, and it's going to be called for a ball. 3-2.
Looked like he went to me.
Yeah, it looked like it was a swing from our vantage point. Of course, you never know with the angle that we have. But the umpire makes the call at first base. And now a massive payoff pitch, maybe the biggest of the game, coming up here for Brock Worthgen and the Peninsula Oilers. This is a high fly ball deep to left field. This one is going to set down for a base hit in the corner. Coming around for the Oilers is going to be Cole Dawson. He is going to score. It's a stand-up RBI double for Brock Worthgen, and the Peninsula Oilers have retaken the lead.
Dawson was running before the pitch was even thrown, so there was no doubt about that. A ball hit all the way into the corner at the base of the wall. Blake Boutz had no chance making a play on it. And there's your lead back.
We were talking about a timely hit that Peninsula has been able to secure time and time again in this series, and Brock Worthgen, the catcher, who's shown an ability to get out into the outfield, shows it right there, almost darn near put that thing out of here, but it stayed in the yard, and he got a massive double instead. Nice consolation. The RBI double, and now Max Rothwark at the plate, and the Oilers, most importantly, retaking the lead. They're up 2-1.
And that,
as this is grounded up the middle, taken up by Patrizi. Throw to first is in time. So a nice 4-3 put out, and good awareness by Patrizi to track that baseball down, and 2 away.
Worthgen advances to third on that as well. That play by Drake Kerr just back-breaking as well. That could have been, wouldn't have ended the inning, but would have put them in a much different position. Was not scored an error, but still an unfortunate turn of events, branching timeline there with runs coming at such a premium, that tie game state did not last long enough for Matsu's liking.
Yeah, it's the things like that. You can call it bad luck, you can call it a curse or something else, but Matsu has just not had things go their way at the moments of the game when they need them to go their way the most. And that missed catch by Drake Kerr could be costly. This ball popped up and fouled. It's going to be uncatchable as it'll land somewhere outside the area. Count goes to 1-1.
Soto has struck out swinging his last 2 at-bats. Started the game off with a single.
6 total hits for the Oilers now in this game. Matsu with 5, 11 combined hits. Pitch on the way from Johnson, and it's outside. The count goes to 2-1. In terms of hitting, this has been one of the most productive games on both sides. It's been a very low-scoring series. So this has been a pretty big explosion in the 7th inning. 2 combined runs between these two teams. We're getting a little heavy on the offense. Swing and a miss, and that will bring the count to 2-2.
The Oilers with 6 hits in this game. Matsu with 5. Each with a double.
And of course, that's not to diminish what the defenses have been doing, and the pitchers especially. They've been sensational in this game, and in this series for that matter. 2-2 count, as that is also going to be fouled somewhere above the dugout for the Oilers, and the count will stay at 2-2 for Petey Soto. Back in the shortstop position, he did get a single in his first at-bat, but he struck out swinging in his last 2 plate appearances. 1 for 3 on the day, trying to get a massive hit 2. Breaking ball, chopper left side, right to the third baseman Basacci. A throw to first is in time. And that will do it for the bottom half of the 7th inning. But the Oilers retake the lead. A massive RBI double from Brock Worthgen. Peninsula back on top 2-1. Charlie Fellows will take you through the final 2 innings. You're watching Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube.
To the penultimate inning of action here under the hot summer sun in Kenai, Alaska. It's the top of the 8th inning with Patrizi, Christian Perez and Brandon Duran due up. They are the 3 of the final 6 outs remaining for the Matsu Miners. If they want any chance of avoiding dropping their 4th straight game, they'll have to mount a rally here against Seth Bauer. First pitch from Bauer is in the dirt to Patrizi, who is 0 for 2 with a walk. Also hit a fly out to center field and been caught in an infield fly. That's hit well, deep out to left field, going back and over the fence. That's a home run. Dom Patrizi starts off the 8th inning by tying this game once again. It's the first Matsu Miners home run of the season, and it's only fitting that it comes from the RBI king in the Alaska Baseball League. 2-2 here in Kenai.
We've been waiting for it for so long, and like you mentioned, the RBI king and number 1 on the jersey. He's number one here tonight, Dom Patrizi, with the first home run of the year for Matsu, and that was a beautiful shot towards the left field corner. That is what the Miners have been waiting for in this series, a splash play that energizes this offense, and that might be the play to put the Miners over the top. We're tied back up here in Kenai.
Steve Hecker, let me hear you. Tell me you're still in the chat for that one. Here's Christian Perez, who rips one down the right field line foul for strike one. He's also 0 for 2 with a walk, has hit a pair of flyouts. There we go. We see you, Steve. The good luck charm we need. We're going to need to have you have this stream open in another tab for the rest of this road trip, because ever since you joined in, things have been going better. Cut and a miss from Perez. Quick 0-2 on Bauer, who's going to try and collect himself after giving up the first long ball of the season, hit by Matsu. That pitch misses low, 1-2.
Yeah, after that, this could be a real energizer, like I mentioned for this Matsu offense. I'm excited to see what the response is from the rest of these guys. Sometimes you just need that kind of play to really inspire the rest of your players, and I think that guys like Perez, Duran, and Strohmeyer can take great advantage of that. We'll see what Perez can do here with the 2-2.
That misses low and away for the third straight offering. What was once an 0-2 count has been worked to full by Christian Perez, who has drawn a walk already, and Brandon Duran due up, who's got a pair of hits in this game. Payoff. Just got a piece of it. Perez in some familiar warm weather. They're joking before the game amongst the team that Matsu is a warm weather team this year. The coldness of late down in Kenai perhaps contributing to their offensive issues, as that's high and tight for ball 4. Christian Perez draws his second straight walk, and Seth Bauer on the ropes here, threatening to give away this lead.
Yeah, all of a sudden things have come apart for Seth Bauer, and right now Matsu is playing a lot more confidently at the plate, and Perez doing a good job of recognizing how the pitches were falling, letting that one go by on the 3-2 count and forcing the walk. This is how Matsu needs to play down the stretch. Smart, disciplined, and ready to go.
So Brandon Duran is struck out swinging and giving up a pair of singles. Here's a mound conference. Don't believe we're going to see a pitching change, but Seth Bauer has had a rough go of it through just a third of an inning. He got a fly out from Blake Boutz to end the 7th inning, but since the start of the 8th, he's given up a home run and issued a walk. Both teams knotted up at 6 hits. The Miners have an error. The Oilers do not. And 2-2 on the scoreboard here. When was the last time the Miners scored runs in consecutive innings?
It's been quite a bit, at least in this series. But I'll tell you what, going back to that home run from Dom Patrizi, we saw him fly out to center earlier on in this game, and he got pretty close to having that baseball exit the ballpark. And you almost felt like if he got the right angle and the right charge into a ball, he could send one up and over the wall, and that's exactly what he did that time. We were talking to the Oilers broadcaster before this game that he felt it was going to be a home run kind of day, and Matsu answered that call. We didn't know when we were going to see it. We knew it was inevitable, though, and much like Thanos, it did indeed happen, and Dom Patrizi, the one to deliver it. And what looked like it was going to be another game that the Oilers were going to run away with late, Matsu finding a response.
Bauer's opening offering to Durand is a cut and a miss on a curveball low. 1-1. That was actually his second offering. A high leverage situation. 1-1 is high. Did he go around? Yes, he did. 1-2.
Interesting fact about Dom Patrizi in this past year with Lehigh, he had no home runs. So that's his first home run in at least a year's worth of time. Got to be exciting for him from that angle as well.
Another cut and a miss on a high fastball, so Brandon Duran strikes out for the second time. Out number 1 here in the 8th inning.
Yeah, just a high pitch that time, and Duran pretty aggressive at the plate, as we know. Decided to swing at that one, and that's one that he probably wishes he could have done something with, may want back, but that was going to be a hard one to hit regardless. Now we'll see if Strohmeyer can do something about it.
Kellen has walked, doubled, and struck out swinging. He doubled last inning back in the 7th, was thrown out at home 0-1. That finds the zone 2. So Seth Bauer has composed himself. He's finding the strike zone much easier, avoiding minor bats, but damage already done. See if the Miners can continue to pile it on. Pitch number 3 is in the dirt, 1-2.
Yeah, you wonder if there's any sort of panic after giving up that home run when he also gave up that walk to Christian Perez. But if there was, he's kind of managed to keep that to the side here, and now the chance to strike out Strohmeyer.
High and tight, 2-2. In front of this packed crowd here at Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark, these fans have been coming out in droves with their team, getting unprecedented success against the Mat-Su Miners. They've won 3 in a row. Mat-Su trying to get one in, and Seth Bauer gets one into the corner of the zone for his second straight K.
Well, we've seen Strohmeyer get struck out in this game before. He went out swinging the first time. This time he gets out looking. That was a beautiful lower pitch by Seth Bauer, and Strohmeyer, not usually one for hitting those lower pitches, got caught looking, and that is a massive second out.
Logan Vaughn is 0 for 3 with a ground out to the pitcher back in the 7th, as well as a strikeout and a ground out to second. With 2 down and a man on first, 1 run already in via the Don Patrizi long ball. A tied game, 2-2 here in the top of the 8th. The Miners have now struck out 7 times in total, 1-0. Golfed it back foul, 1-1.
Logan Vaughn was such a solid hitter with Texas A&M Corpus Christi this past year. Had a solid batting average of .238. He knows how to deliver hits. Let's see if he can get another first for Mat-Su in this inning right here.
1-1, brushes the shoelaces of the Islander catcher for the second ball. Shadow's getting long out in the outfield. 2-1. Into left center field, high but not terribly deep. Vogelsong Lewis, and actually the second baseman is going to take it, Cole Dawson, for out number 3. To mitigate any further damage, Seth Bauer collects himself and escapes, but not before Don Patrizi ties this game up. It's 2-2 heading to the bottom of the 8th. You're listening to Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube. Bottom 8 here in Kenai, a 2-2 game between the Mat-Su Miners and Peninsula Oilers. There's a new man on the mound for Mat-Su, inserted into an extremely high leverage situation for the second time this series after pitching very well in a similar scenario in Game 1. It's Luke Smith.
Luke Smith, the southpaw out of North Richland Hills, Texas, plays for Incarnate Word. We've talked about him a lot this season. He has made a lot of appearances in relief for Mat-Su, sometimes multiple in a series, as he's doing right here. And we actually had a nice conversation with his father before this game, got to talk to him. He's in Alaska for 23 days, I believe, and he is ready to watch his son deliver a sensational outing here against the Oilers today.
Smith leaves the first one low for a ball. Here all the way from North Richland Hills, Texas. Enjoying the weather so far. He's a great guy to talk to, always in the streams as well. 2-0.
And he has also said to us that he's hoping Luke can have a really strong performance here today. He's looking to recapture some form that he had at Incarnate Word.
Into left field, dropping, and down for a base hit. Bouts gets his glove on it and holds him to a single. That was a great play out in left field to prevent extra bases, but the opening man is aboard. Kyle McDaniel has a single.
And that was a nice piece of hitting by Kyle McDaniel, perfectly into left center field, and nothing that Bouts or Kirk could do about it. That's just a perfect example of a gap shot and something the Oilers have succeeded in a lot in this game. And there's a great example for hit number 7.
That's McDaniel's third hit of the game. He has really come into his own these last couple outings against Matsu. Here's Colin Robson, who's 0 for 3, has reached on an error, grounded out, and struck out. And he takes the ball low. Luke Smith behind 1-0 once again.
We know how good this guy when it comes to home runs, and if Don Patrizi can get one, we know for sure that Colin Robson is capable of doing the same thing, and Luke Smith will need to be aware of that. Robson, a guy who has had so much success against Matsu already this season. So for Luke Smith, you got to be aware.
Robson called for time and now ducks his bunt out of the way, taking a strike. 1-1 on Smith.
And that's another question. Would he try a bunt in this situation against Luke Smith? You don't have any outs, so there's a chance you could advance a runner. And right now, taking the lead is the most important thing, so got to keep that in mind.
1-1, the pitch shows bunt again. That's inside for a ball. Logan Vaughn looks the runner back. So far this season, Luke Smith has appeared 4 times, and actually 5 now. Has thrown a total of 7 innings. He's allowed 9 hits and 4 runs, but was much better in Game 1, that game that ended up being a tied win for the Oilers. That's a high fouled bunt back into the stands over the backstop and right in front of the press box. So 2-2 the count now.
Yeah, that was an odd bunt that time. It went way up in the air, bounced off the top of the netting. You could hear it bounce off the metal up there. And thankfully nobody was in danger in that situation. Everybody got out of the way. And now a big 2-2.
Smith lined into right field and down for a base hit. Thought for a second that Kellen Strohmeyer might be able to make a play on it, but it'll be back-to-back singles allowed by Luke Smith. He's into a jam straight away.
Yeah, and again, Colin Robson so good at recognizing where the pitch is going to be coming in a given situation. And he's done well against Luke Smith in the past, and that was a perfect single right there, up and into right field over the head of Don Patrizi. And I'm with you. I thought Strohmeyer had a chance to make a play on it, but it would have been tough. He would have had to have really laid out for it, so don't blame him for not being able to do anything with it. But all of a sudden, the Oilers are in prime position.
Vogelsong Lewis shows bunt and pulls it back 1-0 on another pitch in the dirt. Vogelsong Lewis and Ty Thomas, the two due up, are a combined 0 of 6. Dating back to last game, they're 0 of, what would that be? What's 8 plus 6? 14. Another bunt, lays it down, fielded by Wilcox at third base, throwing on in time. No, it gets away from the first baseman, and a run's going to score. He threw it right into the path of Vogelsong Lewis running to first. Christian Perez could not make a play on it, and the Oilers retake the lead.
Boy, that is a tough break. I thought for a second that we were going to see an out at first base, and it looked like Perez had a handle on it, but obviously the ball got away at the worst possible time, and the very aware Kyle McDaniel able to go all the way from second to home plate in that situation, and all of a sudden, the Oilers take the lead in a dramatic situation. As you see Tyler Brunn talking with the umpires for a second here. Now they're going to have another conversation. First time we've seen that.
Might have been another impeding call with Vogelsong Lewis running over Christian Perez at first base. That happened last game that led to a run scoring, and the umpires didn't call it, with Max Rothwarg running into Nick Ferry at first. So wondering if they're going to rethink this call, because that play was impossible for Perez to make. It went off of, and it doesn't look like any decision has been made, so it'll just be the status quo. That was a really difficult play because of the way Vogelsong Lewis was running to first. So a 3-2 game here in the bottom of the 8th inning.
And you've got bases, or rather runners on first and third here for the Oilers. So
still nobody out.
Still nobody out, exactly.
The
So
first 3 batters to dig in against Luke Smith all have singles. And Ty Thomas, who's 0 for 3, he tries to lay down a bunt, and that's foul. The Oilers with a clear strategy here, just daring Logan Vaughn and the infielders around him to make a play.
They've gone back to this bunt strategy time and time again throughout this series, and to their credit, it's worked time and time again against this Miners defense. That's one thing that this infield has a huge issue with is the bunts, and that is, I think, one of the biggest things that they're going to have to get right as this season progresses because it's costing them late in games.
Fouled that one back, so 0-2 now on Ty Thomas, who has struck out twice in this game.
And now all of a sudden the Oilers are going to be 3 outs away from winning this game in the top of the 9th, which is going to add even more urgency to the Matsu offense in the top of the 9th to score a run.
Some signals being relayed from Logan Vaughn to Luke Smith. Infielders all in the loop as well. 0-2 coming. Smith. Grounded foul down the first base line.
Thomas struck out looking in his last plate appearance and hasn't quite yet secured a hit in this game, so he's been a bit more quiet than some of his compatriots. But he's been able to deliver in other situations in the past.
Another 0-2. That's a high bouncer over the head of Smith, fielded by Richard at shortstop, but he threw it away, and another run comes in, which would have come in regardless, but he threw it into the dugout, trying to make an exceptionally difficult play, basically from his knees to throw to Perez at first. It's another throwing error and another run, 4-2 Oilers.
Yeah, it was a very odd situation that was Dom Patrizi, the second baseman, I believe, who was trying to come up with that baseball. He was spinning around, and he just could not get a handle on that baseball. And when he tried to throw to first, it was going to be well off no matter what because he was trying to rush it. And that was just a unfortunate turn of events. Another mistake by the Miners, things that have cost them here in this series.
Second and third, no outs. This game is spiraling away all of a sudden. Luke Smith still trying to get his first man out. Cole Wilson has been hit by a pitch twice and popped out to short. He's down 0-1 here. He takes a pitch in the dirt, stopped by Logan Vaughn.
So all of a sudden, the Oilers have scored 2 runs in the bottom half of this 8th inning, both of them off of errors by the Matsu Miners. It has just been a tough thing for Matsu to deal with, and I'm sure it's one that if they do lose this game, they're going to be kicking themselves because execution was something that they were hoping was mostly cleaned up, but here in this game, it has really reared its ugly head late.
Smith just missed on that pitch, 2-1. And again, 2 pitches right on the edge of the strike zone. 3 balls, 1 strike. Smith in danger of walking the bases loaded with Cole Dawson on deck, who had, prior to this inning, had scored the only 2 runs of the game for Peninsula. 3-1. Cut and a miss. Wilson comes up empty, and the count is now full.
Nice low pitch by Luke Smith that time. I think that's where he's at his strongest, is when he can fire those in low and get it just at the bottom part of that zone. That was a great job by him.
Payoff pitch fouled away. Cole Wilson on deck, Dawson on deck. Wilson at the plate. Another payoff pitch from the Texan. In for strike 3. He got him looking. Cole Wilson goes down on strikes and a big first out. Luke Smith now all that much closer to escaping this nightmare of an inning.
Boy, that was needed for Luke Smith and Matsu. A nice strikeout looking, and again, he goes back to that low pitch right at the bottom of the zone. Not a lot that Cole Wilson could do with it. A big strikeout and 1 away here.
Cole Dawson, as I mentioned, is singled, reached on an error, and hit into a fielder's choice. He scored a run in the 5th and in the 7th, and he looks at a ball there. Ty Thomas at second, Elijah Vogelsong Lewis at third. One out in the bottom of the 8th with 2 runs already in. Smith. Missing again. He's dotting the edges of the strike zone, but not getting a call.
Yeah, he's going back to that low pitch over and over, and it was working earlier on in this inning, but now not quite the same on Dawson, and he's just letting it go by. Good recognition by him at where the zone is at the plate.
2-0. And missing again.
Man, this could be really drastic because you load the bases if Dawson forces a walk here, and you've only got 1 out, so even if you can force a fielder's choice.
And they're now going to intentionally walk Cole Dawson. I was going to say that's probably the smart play here to open up the possibility of a double play. Brock Worthgen does have 2 hits, including a double in this game, but that's probably still going to be a smart move, and Logan Vaughn is going to talk strategy with Luke Smith now. There is activity in the Miners' bullpen. Can't quite make out who it is.
Looks like Tyler Brunn's going to make his way out of the dugout as well.
So we might be seeing who it is shortly.
We'll keep an eye on what Tyler Brunn decides to do in this situation, but it's obviously been a tough start for Luke Smith. Not all of it his fault. It's been a few errors in the infield by Matsu as well that has cost them these couple of runs, but it's been a tough way to get things going in the bottom of the 8th regardless.
So Nico Tomasello was up in the bullpen. LeBron is going to talk with Luke Smith, and it does look like Tomasello is coming out. So Luke Smith's outing does not go nearly as well as it did in the series opener. He allows 3 hits, a reached on an error, and an intentional walk, 2 runs, does get a strikeout. He lasts just a third of an inning.
Yeah, not the performance he was looking for. Obviously one that he's not going to remember fondly, but I don't think he should beat himself too much up about it because a lot of what happened was not his fault. Just some throwing errors, some misfortunate timing for Matsu is what's going to cost them a couple runs here in the bottom half of the 8th, but obviously not one that Luke Smith's going to be happy about. Tough to see.
Nico Tomasello so far this season, a freshman right-hander, has appeared twice, 3 1/3 innings total. Has allowed 4 runs in those 3 1/3 innings, though. Only 2 of them earned. Out of San Diego State, had just 1/3 of an inning with the Aztecs as a freshman, and enough runs allowed in that third of an inning to get a 54.01 ERA. He's been, of course, much better with the Miners.
Matsu desperately needs a double play here as well to try to keep this game at 2 runs. You feel as though 2 runs is within your grasp to some degree, especially with the way the offense has been awakening in the last couple of innings. But if it gets to 3, that almost feels insurmountable at this point. So,
well, it's just tough as soon as the offense comes alive as well. The pitching, which has been so great throughout this series, has a bit of a hiccup. It's so tough to have them both at the same time, especially when the offense is so streaky. Tomasello starting his warm-up sequence, and Brock Worthgen going to be on deck. If he doesn't bat into a double play, Max Rothwarg in the hole.
It's just been tough for Matsu to put it all together, fielding, batting, and pitching in this series. And another example of that right here, just when you get one thing that's been lacking going, like you mentioned, the thing that's been holding you really into these games for so long is what's betraying you here at this point.
So Worthgen getting ready to dig in with a runner on every base and 1 out. Tomasello, the 6'5" righty, deals, and that's into foul territory. Perez giving chase, but it's over the fence for a foul ball.
Yeah, that was just too far out. Decent enough contact by Worthgen in that play, but solid enough sign for Tomasello, just trying to make sure that he doesn't get any hits into the outfield. That's the biggest thing right now. Keep everything in the infield. Don't let them get anything easy. I'm sure that's what head coach Tyler Brunn wants him to do in this situation as well.
0-1. Into the zone. Quick 0-2 from the San Diego State Aztec.
Good start here for Tomasello. Very solid pitching early on, and If you can get a strikeout here, it would be a massive game changer, and all of a sudden you feel a bit more confident on defense if you're Matsu and feel a lot better about this bases loaded situation.
0-2, the pitch. Low and away.
Nico with 3 1/3 innings pitched heading into this game. He's only given up 1 hit this entire season and only 2 earned runs. 5.40 ERA, so he's been solid in a lot of situations, and Matsu needs him to be exactly that here.
And calling for time now is Worthgen.
He wants to make sure that he's in the situation that he wants to be in and has an idea of what Tomasello is going to try to deal here. Massive 1-2.
Pitch. Into the dirt again, and that gets away from Logan Vaughn, so another run is going to score. Just a pitch landed about 2 feet shy of home plate. Vaughn never had a chance. A wild pitch drives in a run, and 5-2 now the score here in the 8th.
Yeah, Vogelsong's going to come home on that wild pitch, and another unfortunate pitching mistake by a Matsu minor. This time that was just well too low and in the dirt, and nothing that Logan Vaughn could do about it. That's another tough break for Matsu, and it is tough to watch this taking place in the bottom half of the 8th inning. After it was so promising in the top of the 8th, things just not quite resulting the way they were hoping to for the Miners.
Ty Thomas down to third, Dawson to second, and that hit him in the head. The third batter that's been hit in the head by a Miners pitcher today. I'm not obviously suggesting anything intentional there, but just unfortunate. And unlike the first 2 times, Worthgen is a little shaken up. He is going to walk down to first, but had to stop for a moment. So that'll load the bases up just like they were before.
Yeah, and still only 1 out, so all of a sudden things have gone from bad to worse as Rothward comes on, and he's a guy who's already got an RBI single in this game, so we know he's got hitting prowess as well.
Also a pair of ground outs.
This is just another example of Matsu having a black cat running around here in these games, just things just not working out the way that they should and the way that Matsu would hope that they would. When you've got one thing on, you have one thing off, and when you have one thing off, you got one thing on, and it's never all in sequence all at the same time. To win a baseball game, you've got to have really all 3 levels of your play competing at full strength and to the best of their ability, and right now that is just not the case for Matsu in this series. They can't quite get all 3 levels of play at their top.
Umpires were out talking with Brock Worthgen at first base, making sure he was okay. He is going to stay in the game after getting hit in the side of the head by a Nico Tomasello fastball. Of course, they all have helmets, so not like that made contact with anything major, but still not a position I envy. 3 runs already home here, and that's line down the left field line. It's going to be foul.
Boy, that was close. That was really close on that left field line. Home plate umpire made the call, but I thought for a second that it just barely kissed the white along that left line. And
looked like that to me, too.
Yeah.
But just millimeters to the left. So a loud strike off the bat of Max Rothwarg.
That's fortuitous as well, because if that had gotten down, that would have scored easily 2 runs and maybe 3 if things go a certain way.
0-1. This is a grounder to short, flips on to second for 1, on to first in time to turn 2. So the Miners get that double play they so desperately needed and escape the inning from hell, but 3 runs come in to score what was a 2-2 game coming into the frame, a 5-2 game upon leaving. And it'll be down to the final 3 outs for the Matsu Miners, Nick Bisaccia, Ryan Richard, and Drake Kerr, to make a miracle, lest the Miners drop to 0-4 on this road trip. You're listening to Matsu Miners Baseball here on YouTube. To the top of the ninth we go in Kenai, Alaska. The Mat-Su Miners down to their final 3 outs. They fought back to tie this game on a Dom Patrizi home run an inning ago, but after a 3-run explosion in the bottom of the 8th off of Luke Smith and Nico Tomasello, it will be up to Nick Bisaccia, Ryan Richard, and Drake Kerr, barring any pinch hitters, to pull out a miracle for the Mat-Su Miners in this game. Nick Bisaccia pinch hit for Chase Wilcox back in the 7th and smacked an RBI single. Later came around to third, but was stranded there. He got the Miners on the board back in this game. Can he do some more heroism here? Seth Bauer is still on the mound, and he fires in a first pitch strike.
You know, it was a disappointing bottom half of the 8th inning for Mat-Su. A few infield errors and a lot of mistakes defensively cost them.
Off the end of the bat into right field on foul territory. First baseman giving chase, and he nearly caught it by sticking his glove over the fence. Ty Thompson made that way closer than it had any right to be, but it goes over into foul ground. 0-2.
Boy, you're right. That was very close. Heck of an effort by Ty Thomas. He did everything he could to bring that baseball in. If he had a few more feet, I think he could have made the catch, but the fence being there just limited him to what was possible for him, so still more life for Nick Bisaccia and Mat-Su.
0-2 from Bauer, just outside. 1 ball and 2 strikes on the Seton Hall Pirate.
You imagine that the Miners are going to be pretty aggressive in this frame.
Chopped on the ground to third base. McDaniel throws across and in time for out number 1.
Nice work by Ty Thomas to handle that throw as well. It was a little bit low, so that was great to scoop that up in the way that he did. A nice 5-3 putout. And then he'll send on Richard.
Ryan Richard is 0 for 3, has reached on a fielder's choice and flied out twice to center. He and Drake Kerr, the last hope left for Mat-Su. Being out hit 9-6 in this game. High for ball 1 from Bauer.
Richard's had a bit of an off night. He's only got a fielder's choice and 2 flyouts to center field in this game so far. Not his usual offensive expertise has been really the thing for Mat-Su in this entire series. He did have 1 of the 2 hits last night, though, for the Miners, along with Dom Patrizi.
Takes a ball inside there. Here comes Bauer again. And a big cut and a miss. Just got a piece of it. 2 balls and 1 strike.
Not the best batting average on the team does Ryan Richard. He stepped up in big moments before, and they will need him to do the same right here. He's got a .323 average on the season, .400 on-base percentage. Mat-Su could use that kind of play here in the top of the 9th.
Seth Bauer has allowed 2 hits, has walked a man, and allowed the 1 run. That's a liner into center field for a base hit. Ryan Richard has a 1-out single right up through the middle past the diving arm of Cole Dawson. And the Miners have a base runner here in the top of the 9th.
Perfect ground ball off the end of the bat, right into right center field that time, like you mentioned. And Cole Dawson really just unable to make any sort of play on it. That's exactly where you want to place the baseball, and Ryan Richard, one of the best at doing just that. A big single, and maybe that'll get the offense going for Mat-Su here in the top of the 9th.
Drake Kerr is 2 for 4 with a pair of singles, a strikeout, and a ground out. And he hits one well into center field, going back Colin Robson, and he's not going to get it. That rolls all the way to the wall. Going for second is Drake Kerr. He's going to get there standing up. Now he's going to go for third, trying to come around and score, and doing so without a throw. A run comes in on a triple by Drake Kerr, the first of the season for the Miners, and it's 5-3 here in Kenai.
My gracious, what a triple by Drake Kerr. Another baseball blister to look like that one had a chance to get out of here at first. And what a big give up for the Oilers in this situation. That is a massive RBI triple and just what the doctor ordered for Mat-Su. So you've got run number 4 at third base now, and the tying run is at home plate for the Miners.
Blake Bouts has walked and made a trio of outs in this game. And actually, this is going to be Kyle McCausland pinch hitting and rips one down the left field line. Just foul. Man, that might have driven in, well, it absolutely would have driven in Drake Kerr from third, but it definitely would have been extra innings too for Kyle McCausland, pinch hitting for Blake Bouts out of Middlebury College.
That was an incredible looking swing, and boy, It needed to be a few more inches to the left that time, and it looks like we're going to see the Oilers maybe talk about this on the mound.
Yeah, there's going to be a mound conference. Kyle McCausland with no balls and 1 strike. Well, we saw our first Miners home run an inning ago, and now our first Miners triple. The offense has officially come back to life, but will it be enough? Down by 3 runs entering this inning. McCausland is the tying run with 1 out in the top of the 9th. Dom Patrizi due up, who of course hit that long ball back in the 8th.
Yeah, you worry if it might be too little too late at this point for Matsu. And really, if you take away the 3 runs scored by the Oilers in the bottom half of the 8th inning, it's been Matsu who's dominated on offense and been much more consistent. And really, it was the Matsu defensive errors that cost them in that bottom of the 8th inning. So the Miners have kind of done it to themselves, so to speak, but they are doing everything they can to claw themselves out of this hole and do it in dramatic fashion here in the top of the 9th.
McCausland 0-1. They did not make a pitching change. Seth Bauer is going to stay in the game. Ryan Richard at third, 1 away. And he takes a pitch right down the middle. Quick 0-2 on the new left fielder. Bauer deals. Just got a piece of it, did McCausland. Fouls it off to the left side. Scoreboard operators thought that was the second out. But it was not. McCausland lives to bat 1 more day. Possibly more, pending this next pitch. 0-2. And again, just gets a piece of it.
And you don't want anything easy on the infield here if you're Kyle McCausland. Whatever you do, try to get a hit into the gap. Send it far enough away at least to drive in Drake Kerr. You got to get a run here.
0-2 again. Ripped down the left field line right at the third baseman. Throwing on to first, and it gets past him. It gets past the first baseman, so another run is going to come in to score. Going into second is McCausland. That was a bang-bang play, and is he out? No, it looks like he got in. The throw beat him, but he slid in under the glove of the second baseman, Cole Dawson, and the Miners have got it to 1.
My gracious, a mistake this time by Peninsula. This was the demons that haunted them early on in the season against Matsu, and now Ty Thomas unable to come up with that baseball. An infield defensive mistake now by Peninsula, which cost Matsu in the bottom of the 8th, and now the tables have turned quickly, and the tying run is at second.
Kyle McCausland's got wheels. He's an outfielder. Dom Patrizi homered his last time up, and he's now at bat. Fouls the first offering off. Seth Bauer and the Oilers fighting for their lives. A 3-run lead is now just 1. And the scoreboard says there are 2 outs, but there are just 1 here in the top of the 9th. 0-1 on Patrizi. Inside, but in the zone. And another quick 0-2 from Seth Bauer. Can he capitalize on it this time?
Yeah, Seth Bauer obviously aware of what Dom Patrizi is capable of, and he's given up a few big base hits here in the top half of the 9th. So he has got to get this strikeout if at all possible, especially with a runner at second.
Goes for it, and that's high and outside. An amazing diving stop by Brock Worthgen to prevent that from going to the backstop and prevent McCausland from advancing to third. He stays at his base. It'll be 1 ball and 2 strikes on the man from Lehigh.
Yeah, he did a great job just to bring that in. That would have been big trouble if it had gotten towards the backstop. Luckily for the Oilers, that is not the case.
Bauer. Cut and a miss. He got him. Patrizi strikes out. A massive conversion from Seth Bauer, and he's now 1 out away. Christian Perez, the only man standing between him and the Oilers in their 4th straight win.
The first Matsu player of the week in 2024. A guy who once had that 3-hit outing against the Oilers. He's been very solid against them for most of the season until this series. Now he's got a chance for the ultimate revenge right here.
Kyle McCausland on second, a 5-4 lead for the Oilers, and that's high and away for ball 1 from Seth Bauer. Christian Perez has drawn a pair of walks in this game, also hit a pair of flyouts.
McCausland's got a pretty big leadoff over towards second base as well. If there's an opportunity, he may try to steal the hot corner.
1-0. Inside. McCausland was thinking about it, but he ultimately scampers back.
And Worthgen has to keep every single pitch in front of him right here. You cannot afford to let anything get past you in this scenario. Matsu will capitalize in a hurry.
2-0. Missing again. 3 balls, no strikes. Christian Perez has drawn 2 walks already, and he could maneuver for a third to bring up Brandon Durand, who's got a pair of hits in this game.
Plenty of action in the Oilers bullpen as well.
And does. A 4-pitch walk. Seth Bauer wanted nothing to do with Christian Perez, and the future Sacramento State Hornet takes him up on that. The second walk issued by Bauer, and there will be runners at first and second as Larry McCann, the manager for the Oilers, coming out of the dugout. They are going to make a pitching change here in front of Brandon Durand, who is 2 for 4 with 2 hits in this game.
Yeah, you figured this was just a matter of time before it happened, and Larry McCann obviously understanding that in this situation you cannot afford to keep Seth Bauer out there. A little much in terms of inconsistency in these last few plays, so you're 1 out away from victory. You've got to do everything you can to preserve it, especially with the way these Matsu bats have heated up. It is going to be massive for whoever is next on the mound to get this out at any cost.
It is going to be Nikolai Arbach out of South Dakota State. 4.38 ERA. A 6'8" right-hander who pitched, I'm pretty sure, only a couple days ago. I'm pretty sure he's coming in on 2 days rest.
It wasn't for a long time in that last game, but it does make you wonder how fresh is he truly, and is he ready for this kind of action? You only need 1 more out, so you just need a few good throws from him in this situation. But
he only pitched 1 inning. Apologies to cut you off there, Dylan. He threw 1 inning back a couple days ago during the second game that the Oilers won. He did allow a hit in that inning, but did not allow a run. That was his first appearance of the season for Peninsula. So he comes on to try and get 1 more out, with AC/DC's thunder pumping through the stadium loudspeakers. Brandon Durand awaiting his turn at bat, with Kyle McCausland at second base, Christian Perez at first.
Arbach, a big fan of those low pitches, so I'm sure that's what he's going to try to go out to get the Matsu Miners in this situation. And you know who's next, Brandon Durand, who does have 2 singles already in this game. In terms of consistency, he's been one of the most consistent for Matsu. It's been a true breakout performance from him after he was really stifled for so many games. He has come alive here this evening, and a 3rd single would be massive.
He does have a pair of strikeouts in this game as well, so that's definitely going to be the target for Arbach if he wants to end this game. Don't leave it up to the fielders, who have been fallible all throughout this series. Of course, the critical error being made by Ty Thomas at first base, which is why Kyle McCausland is at second base and not in the dugout. In fact, the game would be over right now if he hadn't made that error. So it comes down to Brandon Durand out of Somerset, Massachusetts, Bryant University. One of the most fearsome power hitters in this lineup. Doesn't have a home run yet. If he hit one right now, that would give the Miners a lead, but he doesn't need to go that far. Just a base hit will do. Kyle McCausland has wheels, and he'll be running on contact here with 2 outs.
Step into the spotlight, Brandon Durand. Maybe the biggest at-bat for the Miners here in this young ABL season.
Trying so desperately to end their 3-game skid. Here's the first offering from Arbach, and it's right down the middle. Strike 1.
He needs 2 more of those to close this game out, and from Brandon Durand, he has to be aware of where the zone is and when it's time to swing. This is where plate discipline is so huge for Matsu.
0-1 on its way. Here's the pitch. And it's hit well out to left field. Going back on it is Vogelsong Lewis, and it falls right into his glove. The Miners gave it everything they had, but it wasn't enough on the final frame. The Oilers survive by the skin of their teeth, a 5-4 win, but a win nonetheless. And it sends the Matsu Miners under 500, 4 wins and 5 losses on the season. They're riding a 4-game losing streak. The Oilers a 5-game winning streak, and these two teams have now firmly swapped positions in the ABL standings.
What a gutsy win by Peninsula at the end. They had to do everything in their power to keep Matsu from taking this game over in the top of the 9th, and some incredible scoring by this Matsu offense late. We were waiting for them to come alive in a game. They absolutely did in the back half of this game, but it was the Matsu defense in the bottom of the 8th that cost them. Something that had been performing very well for Matsu ends up being their death nail in this one. But if today is any evidence, I think tomorrow could be a great opportunity for a win for Matsu in their final game here in Kenai.
It's just a brutal turn of events for this team that right as the offense comes back to life, it's the pitching, it's the defense, it's always something. And to the Oilers' credit, they played exceptionally in this game, but the Miners had it. They just couldn't snatch it away, couldn't come up with that clutch hit right at the end. It will be 4 losses in a row here in Kenai. And one final chance tomorrow, same time, same place, same YouTube channel, to try and eke out a win to take some momentum back to Herman Brothers Field. Well, we appreciate everybody who stuck around for bearing with us through all the technical issues. We'll try to have a camera feed next game. Hopefully there's some more cloud cover. We'll bring a fan if we have to. Anything